call in for the meeting? Why not? Some of us.
Hello, Mr. Galvan. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. We can hear you.
Great. Thanks for confirming.
Phone on? Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It is 6:34. We will now reconvene the special city council meeting. Madam City Attorney, would you please report the closed session action?
There was 2 items on the closed session agenda. Item number 1, the city council gave direction to its legal counsel. And item number 2, the city council gave direction to its real property negotiators. And that ends the closed session report.
Thank you. Before I begin the regular City Council and Downey Public Financing Authority meetings, I would like to remind members of the public of the city meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code, Section 2105 and 2106. Copies of these rules are available in the back of the room. The meeting rules prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Unless addressing the city council or entering or leaving the council chambers, all persons in the audience shall remain seated. No person shall stand or sit in the aisles or along the walls, and no person shall block the doorways. All demonstrations, including cheering, yelling, whistling, hand clapping, and foot stomping, is prohibited. No placards, signs, posters, packages, bundles, suitcases, or large objects which disturb or impede the orderly conduct of the meeting shall be brought into the council chambers. All speakers who wish to address the members of the City Council or staff must do so through the mayor. Members of the audience shall respect the rights of others and shall not create noise or disturbance when others are addressing the City Council. Speakers shall not yell, scream, or use foul language during their comments. Photography, audio, or videotapings may be taken from any seat in the council chambers or the back of the room. No videotaping will be allowed from the side or middle seats or the front of the council chambers. The mayor may ask the city manager to remove from the city council chambers any person who, after a fair warning, violates any provisions of the Downey Municipal Code. Any person removed shall be excluded from further attendance on the item or matter pending before the council at the time of the removal. The person removed may re-enter the meeting upon completion of said item or matter. Any person removed a second time for violating the meeting rules will be excluded from further attendance at the meeting. In order to ensure that non-English speakers receive the same opportunity to directly address the City Council, the City of Downey will continue to follow Government Code Section 54954.3B2 and provide non-English speakers double the allotted time to make their public comments utilizing a translator. All other speakers will be given the allotted 3-minute speaking time as established by the Downey Municipal Code or unless modified by the mayor. I will now like to call to order the regular City Council and Downey Public Financing Authority meetings. City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember, Board Member Alvarez.
Present.
Councilmember, Board Member Ashton is excused. Councilmember, Board Member Trujillo is excused. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Pacheco.
Present.
And Mayor Chair Frometa.
Present. Thank you. Again, I just wanted to make sure that everybody, as we have come back, this is our second time in person. We've been gone for a very long time, and I just wanted to ensure that everybody is aware of our Downey Municipal Code rules regarding our meetings and the behavior and conduct that is expected inside our council chambers. And this is based on the Downey Municipal Code sections 2105 and 2106, and these are in the back of the room. Both in English and in Spanish, if you wish to take a look at these. I will now like to call Pastor Dan from Desert Church, Desert Rain Church, for the invocation, and if we can please stand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to be in the council chamber today. It's an honor. We could all bow our heads. I'd like to pray and invite the Lord into this space. Lord, we just come before you in Jesus' name, and we just thank you, Lord. Your word says that we enter your gates with thanksgiving and we enter your courts with praise, Lord. So today we come humbly before you and thank you, Lord, for everything that you're doing, Lord, in our lives and in the city of Downey and in all of the leaders' lives, Lord. Lord, we praise you because, Lord, you are the only true living God, Lord, that has all the power, all the might. So we praise you today. And Lord, we just pray over this meeting, Lord. We pray over the council members and the mayor, Lord, that you would help them, Lord, to make good decisions, Lord, as they push out their personal stuff and their personal egos, Lord, and they make good decisions for your people that you care about, Lord. And Lord, that you would bless their families because of the work that they do, Lord. When they are under attack, Lord, remind them, Lord, that no weapon formed against them shall prosper, Lord. Remind them, Lord, that they are the head and not the tail, Lord, that they have you going before them, and Lord, that you are around them, and it's by your Spirit that things will get done. I just pray for that in Jesus' name over the council members, and I pray over their families, that you bless their families. I pray for the first responders of the city of Downey. I pray for the fire and the police and all the rest of the first responders, Lord, that you would put a special hedge of protection around them, Lord, that you would quicken their minds, Lord, when they have to make those quick decisions, Lord, that those decisions would be righteous, Lord, that they would come from you, that you would help them, that you would protect them, Lord. I pray, Lord, that you would also bless bless and heal their families, Lord. A lot of the things that they go through transfer to their families, Lord. And I just pray for a special healing, a special anointing for their families, Lord, that they would be spared from that, and Lord, that they would be blessed and they would have your favor. I pray, Lord, for the education here in Downey, the educators, Lord, and the city, the school board, Lord. I pray, Lord, that you would bless them, that you would help them, Lord, make good decisions for our children who are the future here, Lord. And Lord, as they do that, Lord, that they would also think about the special needs, Lord, the ones that have a hard time, the ones that need special care, Lord, that you would give them creativity to be able to reach them, Lord, and to reach them in an educational purpose, Lord. We pray for that in Jesus' name. And finally, I'd like to pray over the city of Downey, Lord, that Downey has always been one of those cities that other cities look to. Like, Lord, we have always been here, Downey, a lampstand city, Lord. We don't want that taken away, Lord. So, Lord, we just come before you, Lord, and we ask that you would help us, Lord. And I pray for those that don't know you, Lord, that may even have a disrespect and don't and hate you, Lord. I just pray for them today, Lord, that they would come to know you, Lord, that you love them, that you knock on the door, and if they open that door, Lord, that you would come in and have dinner with them, Lord. I pray for that right now, Lord. I pray for the city. I pray for everybody in this room, that you would bless them, Lord, that they would feel your presence. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Dan Dutch. I will now like to call on our city manager, Gilbert Rivas, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam Mayor, it would be my honor. Please face flag, hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. It's nice to see everybody this evening. Welcome, welcome. Now is the time for City Council member, the board member announcements, requests for future agenda items, conference items, reports, and I will start to my far right with Council Member Alvarez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, and good evening to everyone. First, I would like to thank everyone for your engagement with our City Council. If you're watching on YouTube or in person, thank you so much. I'm always hoping to increase public participation. We are here to listen to the community, although many times we do not like what they say. This is the democracy, and this is our city of Downey, where we listen to all of you. Gracias por estar aquí en vivo o en YouTube. Bienvenidos. Mil disculpas por las personas que no entienden todo el inglés. Estoy hablando de muchas personas que están aquí. Por favor, sigan viniendo. Ojalá y en el futuro podamos tener un traductor, aunque ahorita tenemos uno en place. Muchas gracias. What I'm saying is that I know that there are community members who wants to listen in the meeting in Spanish. We don't have this option yet, but hopefully in the future we can work for this. Next, I want to request that we have an agenda item. It's time to have the city provide council members with a phone for city business, so the city can know who is reaching out to us about the city business, because that is a matter of public record. And it's also really difficult to get a record of constituents when they called us. And we're using basically our personal phone for city businesses. And it gets to my point that I got a request, and I do not know sometimes who is calling me. And I really want that to be transparency with this. But this concludes my comments. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. Madam Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our City Council meeting. This would be our second in-person City Council meeting in well over a year, so it's always a pleasure seeing everyone here in attendance, and it's a pleasure seeing you all engaged in your community. A couple of people I did want to recognize. I do see our Executive Director for the Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert. Please raise your hand. I'll give you a round of applause. And also, we have the president for the Downey Rose Float Association, Jeremy Clifton. Please raise your hand. And I see some other Rose Float members in the back. Jennifer Decay and Kelly, raise your hand. So like I mentioned, it's nice to see our community out here and our community engaged. I wanted to mention some events that I attended this month. Last Wednesday, I had the pleasure of attending the Downey Chamber of Installation dinner. We have our incoming president, Sheila, who is now the president for our chamber. So congratulations to her. I also had the pleasure of attending the mayor's prayer breakfast this last Saturday. I know a lot of members of our community were also present. Our guest speaker was Glenn Leonard from the Temptations. So that was a nice and special treat. And upcoming events, tomorrow we have Downey PD is having their Coffee with the Cop event at 6 p.m. at Starbucks on Imperial and Paramount Boulevard. And I don't know if many of you are aware, but we are having our Concerts in the Park series. Our first one was last week. They are always at Furman Park every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Tomorrow there will be a band called the Band Fresh. Next Wednesday will be a Hard Day's Night for all you Beatles fans, which I am one of those. And Saturday is a Keep Downey Beautiful event. It will be starting at 9 a.m. at the Del Taco parking lot off Paramount and Firestone. Please try to arrive by 8:40 a.m. Because it's important that we keep our city beautiful and we clean up trash. So if you can attend, please do so. We need volunteers. And I know a couple weeks ago was 4th of July, or actually last Sunday. Last Sunday was 4th of July. And I know we're still seeing a lot of illegal firework usage. I would like to see if possibly at the next council meeting, we can have a report provided maybe by Downey PD and Downey Fire as to an update, and maybe looking into see what else our city can do to curtail the usage of these illegal fireworks, maybe looking into seeing what other cities are doing. From what I heard, and I don't know if this is true, that Huntington Park is fining $5,000 for illegal firework usage. Again, I don't know if this is true, but I'd like to see what, if anything, we could do, because I know it's not the legal fireworks that we're concerned about. It's the illegal fireworks that disrupt our neighborhoods. So if we could look into that, that would be great.
No problem. We'll bring something back.
Okay, thank you. And again, nice to see you all, and that concludes my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to keep my comments short this evening. We do have a lot of business to take care of. I do want to report to you that I had the pleasure of attending several events these last couple of weeks. It is nice to be in person, finally. And I also had the pleasure of attending the Chamber of Commerce installation luncheon for Sheila Tatongo Bartolone. And she's the incoming president, and that was wonderful to see the new leadership coming in for this year. I also attended Stay Gallery is now open, and after having gone through such a challenging year, the gallery opened up with several dozen local artists, and I had the pleasure of being there last Friday evening. And the theme of the gallery, of the exhibition, is Unidos, United. And the exhibit is open through August. I encourage you to take a look at some of those pieces. They are really impactful. These are artists from around the community and surrounding areas that are showcasing their work, their paintings, their sculptures, and really showing us what this pandemic and the challenging time did for them and their families. I also had the pleasure of attending the Police Appreciation Parade here, and I want to extend once again our gratitude to our police department here in the city of Downey. Thank you, Captain Murray and our police. Thank you for all you do to keep our community safe. I know our Mayor Pro Tem asked for a report next council meeting, but I do have to tell you that our police department was incredibly busy a week ago Sunday for 4th of July. And we do know that there were 38 citations given for the illegal fireworks throughout our city. And we will look forward to a more specific report, but I do have to tell you that they work hard to keep our neighborhoods and our communities safe. So thank you. I also had the pleasure of attending the concerts in the park. As Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, they are back. We are gathering every Wednesday from now on through August 11th at Furman Park. The park has been beautifully renovated, and it was wonderful to see hundreds of people come together and their families and their pets enjoying the evening, the Twilight concert series. I also want to let you know that we do have a National Night Out, which is scheduled for Tuesday, August 3rd, and that's going to be outside our Civic Center. Please make sure you mark your calendars for that. I think it's important to come out and support our community and certainly our law enforcement. We are a strong community because we're an engaged community. And I do want to welcome, I think our good friend Hector Sosa, president of Gangs Out of Downey. Thank you for joining us tonight. And our Downey chaplain, Greg Welch, thank you for also joining us. We also would like to bring up Ed Norris, and I would like to ask what we are doing. I know many of our community residents have asked what we're doing for San Gabriel Park. I know many of you know that we invested over $60 million through Measure S in the rebuilding of our fire stations, the refurbishment of our parks, and certainly our 10 new police officers, communications. We've done so much. Our brand new library that just recently welcomed people fully again. But I do want to have Ed Norris give us a little bit of a feedback in terms of what we're doing with San Gabriel Park.
Sure, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. This is an item that I know that you've brought to my attention, and Councilmember Trio, who's not here, also brought it up to me as well. In terms of the condition of the park at Rio San Gabriel, we're fortunate to be able to take care of a lot of the parks in the city. That one we were not able to because of the significant costs, as you all know, or I'm sorry, the council knows. But it's a former landfill site that keeps sinking, and over the years, we have made improvements out there, but the irrigation lines keep sinking and keep going down. So the cost to shore up the land out there is significant. So there are things that we are planning for, and we will be doing in the immediate future, and then the long-term future, we will be seeking ways to settle the ground out there so that we can plant stuff. So we're not throwing good money after bad. So Ed, you want to go ahead and just tell everybody what we're doing there on the interim basis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Just to kind of pick up where the city manager left off on a description of the park, as you're all aware, that the park was built over a landfill. The irrigation system has been deteriorating, resulting in low water pressure and leaks, which is creating challenges in being able to maintain the turf and safe playing areas within the park. But the Public Works Department will be making a series of improvements to the park over the next 6 weeks, give or take, as follows. The first task will involve regrading the park to provide more level playing fields. And that task will begin tomorrow and take about 4 to 5 days to complete. While the grading operation is in progress, the park will be closed from the basketball courts on the west side to the dog park on the east side to the northerly end of the park, including the north parking lot. And then the second task will involve overhauling the irrigation system, as the city manager alluded to, which will begin next week and will include the installation of new irrigation mains throughout the park, a task which will take approximately 2 weeks to complete. The park will continue to remain closed during this time. However, the playground area, dog park, and south parking lot will remain open to the public. And Public Works staff and city staff will keep the public informed through social media in regards to the park closures throughout the progress of the improvements. Following the installation of the irrigation mains, the maintenance division will install lateral piping, irrigation control valves, and sprinkler heads. The work will be completed in sections over about a 4-week time frame, and the park will be open to the public during this time, except for the areas where the irrigation work is going on. And overall, staff is hoping to have all the improvements to the park completed by the end of next month, approximately 6 weeks from now. And then in the fall, when the weather begins to cool off, hydro seeding of the park will be scheduled. In the meantime, staff will continue pursuing grants for the permanent repairs to the park, and will reach out to Cal Recycle, and other organizations and other grant funding agencies to see if there are any grants available for the capping and closure of the landfill.
Thank you, Ed. I do have just one more item to report. I did have the opportunity on Sunday to attend a spontaneous rally of close to 300 Cuban Americans here in the city of Downey, outside of Portos. And this is in support and solidarity for the people of Cuba that are currently starving and demanding freedom and liberty. 62 years under an oppressive communist regime. And it was wonderful to see our community come together. In Downey, we have the largest Cuban American population in the western United States. And it was really, the rally happened within hours, and I was notified and I was able to attend. So our thoughts and prayers are certainly with the Cuban community at this point in time. And as married to a Cuban for the past 25 years, I know the plight of the Cuban people, having had a father-in-law who escaped in a rowboat, and an uncle who was sentenced and tortured to prison for 20 years for trying to escape communism. And so we all know too well the fight for freedom and justice. I also would like to ask, I have 2 items for staff. One, of course, our police department continues to do a phenomenal job with speed enforcement. We've seen it. They've been catching individuals doing donuts around our beautiful city, and their cars have been impounded for 30 days. I think that continues to send a strong message that Downey will continue to enforce the speed zones and speed enforcement. But more importantly, I also want to ensure that we continue to patrol, of course, our parks for transient activity. Several members of the community reached out to me regarding a brand new homeless encampment that is forming behind Financial Partners Credit Union. And if we can please take a look at that, I would really appreciate that. That is all I have for tonight. It is time to go downstairs for presentations. I have the pleasure every time to pick members of our community who are continuing to do really good work, who have been part of this community. Yes, perhaps that will be you one day. Yes, absolutely. It is my distinct pleasure this evening to give this award. It is the Mayor's Champion Award to someone who has lived in the city of Downey his entire life, all 51 years. And he's a product of Downey Unified School District, graduating from Downey High in 1988. Go Vikes! Sorry, my Warren Bears. I know I'm a Warren Bear, but I have to cheer for the Vikes sometimes. Well, at Downey High School, he was on track and field team and held a few records in the pole vaulting event. He started volunteering with the Downey Rose Flood Association in 1978. He was asked by a neighbor to join in decorating Decoration Week. Since he was on restriction, his parents told him he couldn't go. And if this one act didn't dictate his dedication for the float, nothing will. He jumped out of his bedroom window and headed toward the float to volunteer anyway. The true definition of a community servant. Do we have any kids in the room? I was going to say, don't listen to that. Just kidding. Kelly Roberts Jr. has served on the board of the Downey Rose Flood Association as vice president in 2003 and 2004. He was president in 2011 and 2012 and has been the construction chairman since 1994. That's 27 years. During his tenure with the association, his favorite floats have been the 2 roller coaster floats and the water slide float, which were the most challenging and the most rewarding. Kelly is the youngest member to receive a lifetime honorary membership from the Downey Rose Flood Association, and he's received the Float Builder of the Year award from the Tournament of Roses Parade in 1991 and 1993. Kelly was one of 4 selected by the Rotary Club International for District 2300 as a Goodwill Ambassador GSE Group Study Exchange to go to Central Europe for 5 weeks. As a result of the connections that were made through his involvement with the Tournament of Roses, Kelly was nominated for this program and applied for Rotary GSC. After he completed a series of interviews, he was selected as one of the 4 Rotary GSC Ambassador, 2005-2006, selected in 2005, and traveled in 2006. He traveled to Austria, Hungary, Croatia, and Slovenia. He was able to share his career and volunteer experiences with other Rotary clubs in these countries, and on his return, presented to multiple Rotary clubs in District 2300, including the annual conference about his trip and what he learned. When he's not working as a state inspector in the amusement rides and tramway unit for the state of California, or volunteering at the float site, he spends his time camping and hiking. I know it might be a little, people don't always like the spotlight, and I know Kelly is one of those guys. They like to work behind the scenes, and in the city of Downey, we're always very proud when we see the Rose Parade. And we look for the Downey Rose Float with such emotion and such excitement. And it is the work that Kelly, that you do, and so many others. You work behind the scenes. And for the past 40-some years, you've been dedicated to helping the city of Downey build our Rose Float. You are so dedicated, and you do it because you want to. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for your dedication. There are so many of you unsung heroes that must be recognized. And so for that, Kelly Roberts Jr., would you please come up? Can we please give him a round of applause? Kelly Roberts Jr., in recognition of your outstanding citizenship and activities enhancing the community of Downey, your exemplary efforts and accomplishments have been of enormous value to our community and have helped to further the common goal of making our city a better place for all. Thank you, Kelly, for being a champion for what is good and honorable in the city of Downey. Congratulations. Here's the mayor's challenge coin and the pin. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. After hearing that, I need a new hobby. I just want to say thank you to the mayor and to the Downey Roast Float. Jeremy? I know it's on the board. There were some things in there that not too many people know about, but thank you for sharing that. Anyhow, I just want to thank everybody. Like I said, thank the mayor. This is a great honor, and I'm very humbled by it. I hate this. Anyhow, I hope to see all of you down there at our float site this year on December 26th. We spent the last year and a half cleaning it up, repainting it, redesigning it, and making it a better place for everybody. So, thank you. Jeremy, I'll see you later. And thank you very much.
Thank you. We need a picture. We need a picture. Come over here for a picture. And if you want to bring anybody up?
Bring Jeremy up here. Come on, Mr. President. Jennifer, my dad, my mom. Yeah. What about Jason? Oh, Jason got to come up too.
Come on, guys.
Come on. We're all
Our floats, our Downey floats, and all of the amazing awards that we have won are because of you. You guys. It's the team, but you guys work behind the scenes. Sometimes you don't even sleep. The week leading up to the judging, right? Is that right, Jennifer?
No, the last meeting is pretty much 23-hour days, little cat naps here and there.
And all of this is volunteer. They don't get paid a penny for this. And by the way, the Downey Roseville Association today, it's funded, right? It's fundraise all this money.
It's all private donations.
Private donations.
That make it possible to have that great go down Colorado Boulevard. Thank you very much.
I have an appointment to make, and this lady is really special. She loves Downey, like so many of us. She has been in this community her whole life, and she is an Italian extraordinaire, and I appreciate her. We have a lot in common. My Cuban, Mexican background and the Italian, there's a lot of similarities. This lady and I ran against each other in 2018. We were opponents in the political campaign. And the city of Downey is a special city because when you are running against each other, when you are opponents, it doesn't mean you're enemies. Because we all care about the city. And we can run strong campaigns, but we don't need to get dirty. We don't need to hit below the belt. That's not what Downey's about. That's why Downey is what Downey is. And after the campaign and after the dust had settled, we reached out to each other and we have become good friends. And her father here makes the best limoncello I have ever tasted, better than when I went to Positano. And so if that says anything, and he's one of the best cooks, by the way, and that cheese, Carrie, is also amazing. But I want to present Carrie Uva the certificate of recognition for your participation and as an expression of appreciation by the City Council on behalf of the citizens of Downey. And I would like to appoint you to serve as a member of the Planning Commission representing District 4. Carrie was previously my commissioner for Measure S. Carrie also serves in Public Works, and she has served in various committees. She's also an attorney and a local realtor. So thank you, Carrie. Would you please come up?
I would like to thank Mayor Frometa for appointing me to the Planning Commission. It's a true honor to be appointed. I come from a family of general contractors and watched my dad and my brother over the years build and develop in the city of Downey. So it makes it very special now to be appointed to the Planning Commission so that I can assist Downey residents and business owners improve and develop their properties. I've lived in Downey my whole life, I think like Claudia said. I really care about our city, and I want to see great things happen in Downey. So I look forward to sitting down with the other former planning commissioners and being part of the commission and hopefully doing great things for the city of Downey. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for appointing me.
Thank you for accepting.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's take a picture.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to bring your dad.
Sure.
too.
Dad, do you want to come up for a picture?
Oh, and Viva Italia, because they just won the Euro. So Viva Italia.
Thank you so much.
We need to recess for just a couple of minutes to give people an opportunity to gather with their families, and we just need to wait until our council member comes back. So let's take a 2-minute recess, please. We're going to come back from our recess. Thank you. If everybody can please take a seat. Thank you. We have, there is one public hearing item this evening. Number one is authorizing the issuance and sale by the Downey Public Financing Authority of Measure M and Measure R sales tax revenue bonds. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. City Clerk Duarte, do you have the proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
City Manager Levis, who is giving the report?
Madam Mayor, the report will be given by our Finance Director, Neil Gandhi. As he makes his way to the podium, just a little preface in terms of what's going to be before you. It's a bond issuance in order to take care of our roads. One of the things that we've heard from the community and from the council is that we'd like to do more in our residential streets. Our main arteries have been, actually, most of our main arteries have been taken care of. We've actually spent more on our city roads in the last 5 years than the preceding 15 or 20 years, but it's never enough when your particular street is not in great shape. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is bonding against some of our county revenues, nothing from our general fund. And so we'll bond against that in order to secure roughly $30 million of additional revenue that will go into our local streets. At the same time, we'll providing an additional $5 million on a yearly basis for a total of $45 million over roughly a 4-year period. So Mr. Gandhi will go ahead and describe the mechanics of that procedure in order for us to secure some funding for some residential streets in the city of Downey. Mr. Gandhi?
Mayor, before we move on, can we just take a motion and a second to receive and file the publication?
Yes, can I have, I'll make a motion.
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you, and I'll take a roll call. Council Member, Board Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Council Member, Board Member Ashton and Trujillo are excused. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Chair Frometa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gandhi, you may
Okay.
proceed.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and Council Member Alvarez. As the City Manager, before I start my presentation, I got a short presentation, but I want to introduce some people in the audience who are here today from our bond finance team, and they can answer any questions you may have later on. We have Mr. Vince Lazarda, who is our bond underwriter. Yep. Thanks, Vince. And Mr. James Fabian, who is from with Philman and Rollep, who is our municipal finance advisor, who works with me. And then we have Mr. Juan Gelwan, who's the bond counsel out of San Francisco. He's on the Zoom meeting. So he's here too if you have any questions. As City Manager Livas gave you a little background on the streets. Next slide, please. This is our payment management program. City owns and maintains 214 miles of roadways consisting of 154 miles of residential streets, 17 miles of collectors, 43 miles of arterial highways. City recently updated its payment management program, which you all remember Mr. Delfino did a presentation about 3 months back on City's payment management program. City's overall network payment condition index, PCI, is 57 and on scale of 0 to 100, which is a good category. In order to expedite street improvements and significantly increase city's overall network PCI, staff is looking into issuing municipal bonds for the street projects. Next slide. Now, this is City of Downey, and I had another presentation. Did you have that, Alicia? Another map? I had sent it to you in this evening. But that doesn't matter. That's okay for right now. This is the city divided in different zones. We expect that our bond process is going to be $30 million, and every year we also will get an additional $5 million from different revenue sources like SB1, gas tax, Prop C, and that all equals about 5 million. So you take over the next 3 years, 15 million on those 5 million and 30 million of the bond proceeds, we got about 45 million that we plan to use on the city, entire city, to do the street projects. And we expect that we'll be done in 3 to 4 years, upgrading our streets in the city of Downey. And MTA has approved our proposed residential street projects. So it's approved by the MTA too. And I think this will be a giant step for the city of Downey to expedite our street projects in the city in a short time. Next slide, please. LA County Metropolitan Transportation, LSCMTA, water approved. Now, I'm just going a little bit back. How are this $30 million that we are issuing bonds going to be financed, or where is the money coming from to pay back the principal and interest? So we have two sources of revenue, Measure M and Measure R. Measure M was approved in 2017, tax rate at 0.5% until Measure R sunsets in 2039 and 1% thereafter. And Measure R was approved in 2009, tax rate at 0.5% and sunsets in 2039. Our bonds are for about 21, 22 years. So we have a 1% revenue coming from these two sources, Measure M and Measure R, to meet the debt service of our $30 million bonds. Both measures allocate 50%, Measure M and Measure R, 15% of the total sales tax receipts in the LA County to 88 cities to fund their own transportation projects. We receive about $3 million between Measure and Measure R a year for the street-related projects every year. And when you think about this, $3 million really doesn't go that far on a yearly basis, but when we do a bond issue and we get $30 million at one time, we can really expedite our CIP for the streets, and that's the idea behind the entire bond issuance. Next slide, please. So what are the bond objectives? Providing funding for cities' payment rehab project program. Bonds will be secured by and payable for future Measure M, Measure R sales tax revenue only. No money in the general fund will be used to pay the debt service. Please, this is very important for the community and the council to know that no money from general fund will be used to service the debt service on the street projects. It's coming from Measure M and Measure R, Measure M and Measure R only. These are designated special revenue that we get from county for the street projects. And that's what we are using the money for. And we are taking the advantage of current low interest rate. We think we can issue these bonds right now. Our good faith estimate is at about 2.4% that we can issue these bonds at. Next slide, please. And this is the debt service coverage on the bonds. That our debt service is going to be about, we collect about $3 million a year. Our debt service is going to be about 1.8 million. There'll be an excess of about 1.2, 1.3 million every year, which again can be used for the street projects, which is part of our 5 million that we say we get annually every year. We are required by the bond covenant to have 150% as a debt coverage, and we'll be at about 170%. So we are adequately meeting the debt coverage. Next slide. The bond finance team. I introduced the underwriters, Vince Lazarda from Stifel Nicholas and Company. Our bond counsel, Juan Galvan, who is with Jones Hall out of San Francisco. He's on the Zoom meeting. He was our bond counsel for our pension obligation bonds, and before that for our Measure S bonds. Same thing with municipal financial advisor, Mr. James Fabian, who I introduced you earlier, with Philman Rollep, and we have used them before for our 2 previous issues too. and our trustee is U.S. Bank. Next slide, please. So the recommendation for tonight for the city council is to introduce the ordinance in connection with the sale of the Measure M and Measure R sales tax revenue bonds. We are introducing the ordinance, not adopting that ordinance, just introducing. And also, it got cut off, but authorized staff, city manager, assistant city manager, and or the finance director sign the necessary documents. And for the public financing authority, our recommendation is to approve the resolution in connection with the sale of the Measure M and Measure R sales tax revenue bonds, and also authorize city manager, assistant city manager, and or finance director to sign the bond documents. Next slide, please. And this is the preliminary financing timeline. July 7th, our projects were approved by the Metro, LSC, MTA, by the MTA. Today is the first reading. We'll come back at the next council meeting for the second reading. And then we got a validation period of 2 months. August 26th, when the ordinance becomes effective. Then in September 21, we go before the S&P, the credit rating agencies, to rate our bonds. And then September 25th, 60-day passive validation period ends. September 21, post-preliminary official statement. And in October of 21, we are intending to sell the bonds if everything works as clockwise as we think it should. If the council has any questions, we got city manager Livas, our bond financing team, we got our bond counsel in San Francisco, Mr. Ed Norris, and I'll be the facilitator for the questions. Thank you.
One other item to add is we actually on tonight's agenda, we had a item to approve going out to bid for design services for our roads, but we need a couple more council members because we have some that are conflicted because of businesses that they own in the area, so we have to wait. But we'll be back with that, and then what we're intending to do is hit the ground running as soon as the money becomes available, when we start getting that money into the residential streets as soon as possible.
Thank you, City Manager Livas. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you.
My council colleagues, Councilmember Alvarez or Madam Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any questions or comments regarding this?
No questions. I just think this is a great idea. So that way we can repave a lot of our streets that need it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Again, I think one comment, and again, just for the record and for point of clarification, I think it's important for our residents to know and to understand the financial stability of our city, and that these bonds and that this money is not going to be taken out of the general fund. We have very strict practices, and we always ensure that our city, remains fiscally conservative and stable.
Yes,
and so this is an important step forward in making sure that our streets are repaved and the roads that our residents so need are rehabilitated in a much shorter amount of time. But Anil, just again, for the point of clarification, making sure that these monies are separate from our general fund, but also from our rainy day fund.
You are exactly correct, Madam Mayor. That's what it is. We are not touching 1 cent of general fund for our state improvement projects. We have designated revenue sources for these purposes, and that's what we are using.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now entertain a motion and a second to close. Actually, no, we need to open it up for public comment. This hearing is now open for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address may now come forward. You will have 3 minutes to address the council on this public hearing item only. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Herman.
Just.
Well, we know that Larry Elder will be our next governor, and Larry Elder is running a very serious campaign regarding our infrastructure and the ability to have the integrity to strengthen our infrastructure. But as we've all seen and experienced, that not only in the past, Measure J, Measure S was all bamboozled. We waited for our library to open. We waited for them to spend the money on our ADA issues. And it took one person, one jackass, to call DOJ and notify them that there were some problems here, that inadequate access was a result to the infrastructure of 40 years of the city of Downey not providing ADA access. Isn't that amazing? What you can learn? Yeah, don't worry about the little noises in the background. They don't bother me. What bothers me is people who threaten me and try to assault me verbally. That's more important. See? When you threaten a person by assaulting them simply because of words, you're a fool. But again, public should understand that the underwriter, which would be us, the contractors who hire the subcontractors, to actually do their part, meaning don't steal from our public funds. Thank you, Mr. Livas. We're aware of the $60,000 that one of your employees was stealing on receipts. Right?
Stay on topic.
That is topic. Is dealing with how our particular individuals in our city management and public works don't abuse the public funds on bonds. Because if you steal from the bonds, you're going to go to federal prison. If you take from these bonds, you're going to be in more serious problems than you can imagine. That's the reason why bonds are allocated specifically for you to resolve the problem, which is you promise to fix something, then use that money. Thank you, Larry Elder, for that comment. However, in addition to this, as far as the transportation niggers, I don't trust them. MTA has been a number of problems. And with the population only spending $30 million, that's just chump change. Money doesn't grow on trees, as one speaker would say. Well, I'll say it again. There's no good faith in Measure J or Measure S. And let's see if this 2021 Measure A and B under Measure M and Measure R are reliable.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Hi, you may come forward, please.
Lee Squire, Financial Services Manager, City of Brea, retired 31 years, also known as a bond administrator for the City of Brea. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Given Councilwoman Alvarez and Councilman Trujillo are new to the city government and its issue of bonds, did city staff provide a written primer on bond basics for municipal bonds and a brief purpose of all the various legal documents? I can assure you, I can quote them. This also includes their knowledge of what the purpose is of a draft preliminary official statement. The city is using an ordinance and a public hearing to approve issuance of bonds by the city. Is it just as legal for the city to have approved a resolution via an administrative item, which is also known as a deliberative process? Was it legally mandated for the city to use an ordinance process? Also noticed city uses the same bond financing team as the City of Brea, which I appreciate. Jones Hall, Stiefel, and Fieldman. Thank you for my public comments.
Thank you.
Gracias, buenas tardes.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Maura Cotero, estamos representando.
Un momento, por favor. Ahí le vamos a dar un intérprete.
Gracias. Voy a pedir que hable por partes pausadas para darle la oportunidad. Ok, gracias. Maura, ¿qué le dijo? Cotero.
Good afternoon. My name is Maura Cotero.
Agradezco que estén reunidos aquí para escuchar la voz de la ciudad.
I'm grateful that you may be here to listen to us, to hear the voices from the city.
Me siento un poco incómoda porque veo que no hay una traducción para español para los que no hablamos inglés.
I feel somewhat uncomfortable because I see that there is no translation into Spanish for those of us who don't speak English.
Yo creo que este sería un inicio para los que queremos estar en estas reuniones y por falta del español no podemos estar.
I believe this would be the
Perdón,
beginning for
inglés.
those of us who would like to be in this meeting, and for those who do not speak Spanish, I mean English, we cannot be this way.
Disculpe, we need to let her know this public comment is for this hearing. The item.
Quiere que sepa que es para esta reunión. Que es para esta audiencia pública, es el propósito del comentario del público, dice la señora alcaldesa.
Precisamente yo creo que lo de las, que se puede utilizar lo de las calles que está mencionando sobre las, ¿cómo se puede decir? El dinero que se puede utilizar para eso podría utilizarse para que como ciudadanos nos sentamos más a gusto estar presentes en estas audiencias.
It is precisely what I think that the amount, what we're talking about, the streets, that these monies can be used so that we as citizens could be feeling more at ease during these hearings.
Para muchos que hablamos español sería muy útil poder entender lo que estamos, el propósito en el que estamos aquí. Como no hablo el inglés, se me hace un poco difícil, pero pudiéramos empezar por poner algunos ingresos para que nos puedan ser traducidas estas audiencias y poder estar presentes más personas que hablamos español.
As one who speaks Spanish, I think that it would be most useful for us, and in order to better realize the purpose of our being here, that those of us who do not speak English and find it difficult, that some income could be used in order to have a translator so that more people who speak Spanish can be here and take part.
Gracias por escucharnos y esperemos que no lo tomen en cuenta porque sí queremos estar nuevamente en estas plataformas, pero más cómodas.
Thank you very much. I do wish that this will be taken into account because we do want to feel more comfortable and to see that we will be included in these platforms.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias. Welcome.
Welcome. Yes, thank you. Mike Greenspan, a Bruin butt-kicking Florida Gator. I don't know which is going to waste more money, UCLA's football program this year or this measure.
Can I have you just hold on for a minute, Mike? Hold the clock. Those of you standing in the back, are you in line, or you cannot be standing in the back? You must take a seat unless you are waiting to speak. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know which is going to waste more money, the UCLA football program or this Measure M and Measure R. Not dissing on the finance people. It's the council. The council, the city manager, and all the other usual suspects, as they would say in the movie Casablanca. Yes, let's go down memory lane a little bit. To 2008, there's this thing called the Gold Line, a transportation project. It was supposed to open in July of 2008. In fact, all the billboards and the bus benches were already touting it.
Mr. Greenspan, please stay on topic. This is hearing one.
I'm showing how the history of transportation projects has been a fuck up, okay? Is that what you want to hear? Good. Because it didn't open until November. But why were the signs out? Well, as I was telling Mr. Herman, these billboard companies and advertising, you have a 30-day lead time. So if it doesn't happen, as it didn't happen in July, tough shit. We're already locked into the contracts touting the thing that's going to open. Well, that'll be the same way. If you love the library, if you like the library, you'll love this project. After all, I remember asking you guys last fall, when's it going to be completed? October. Boy, October extended all the way into May. May I count? That's 7 months. Well, at least when the finance director said it'll be 3 to 4 years, he's at least covering the bases, because we know you guys can't do it right. Obviously, the library is perfect proof. After all, you take the taxpayers' money and waste it and think nothing of it. Yes, I'm the guy that says money doesn't grow on trees. And you elect a supervisor, Janice Hahn, that thinks money grows on trees, and that trickles down to the mentality of cities like Downey that elect Janice Hahn and the money grows on trees philosophy. After all, if you were to say it'll happen, stuff will be completed in March. Well, it could be March of 3 years or March of 4 years, because now we aren't going to be like the library and the October ended up at the end of May. What can I say? Your track record's notorious, just notoriously bad. After all, let's see how long. I'll be here in a few years. I'll be here in 5 years and say, hey, you haven't completed it yet. The city council's fucked up once again. That's the way I'll be saying it, because we all know history repeats itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, let's just hope we don't get another pandemic. It might take 10 years if we have another pandemic.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Verónica Maca y les agradezco la atención que me están prestando, pero quiero expresarles que el dinero que ahorita quisieran ustedes utilizar para las calles es un poco incongruente, porque ¿cómo puedo querer más calles si las calles por donde camino ahorita ya no me parecen seguras en mi ciudad? Entonces yo quisiera que igual la ciudad siguiera siendo más segura, porque la siento muy insegura, y para lo que ustedes van a gastar sería mejor utilizarlo para otros proyectos que realmente hagan crecer familias, que hagan crecer vecinos o vecindarios más seguros, y como se puede utilizar para diferentes cosas, no tanto para calles. Calles se pueden caminar ahorita, pero es mucha inseguridad ya la que estoy viendo en la ciudad, entonces se me hace un poquito ilógico que quieran gastar en eso. Es solamente mi opinión. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Maca, and I am grateful for the attention that you lend me and allow me to be here. I'd like to say that the money that you're proposing that you would like to use for the streets is an inconsistent use, because how is it that you want to build more streets, those streets that I walk, when these seem insecure right now? I ask that you would build more secure streets, that you would use the money that you're talking about to use it on projects such as growing families, more secure projects, and other things that are better. Streets that can be more secure where one is already walking. We already have that. So I think that this spending is illogical. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon. Mario Gomez. Thank you. Thank you for the job, the work that you guys have all been doing. We're very, very proud to be living in the city. And in regards to the streets, I agree. And you guys have done a great job with my street also on third place. I'm just curious as to what type of investigation and record keeping has been done for the infrastructure below the streets, such as gas lines, water lines, water mains, etc. You know, so we're going to redo the streets, and what's the actual structural integrity of our utilities below the streets? You know, let's say like the incident that happened up north with PG&E, where the old gas lines exploded. That's what I'd like to know.
Thank you for that, and I'll have our city manager leave us provide a little bit of detail of that.
Sure. Thank you for the question. One of the things we do and pride ourselves is on our infrastructure in terms of trying to maintain it and keep it. It's a minor miracle, quite frankly, that, things don't go bad more often, right? You got, miles and miles of gas lines, water lines. One of the things, if you notice throughout our streets, is that before we even undertake a street project, we usually repair the subsurface of that. We repair the water lines, repair the gas lines, wherever we can before we undertake a project, primarily because we don't want to come back after you do a new street. And you see this happen all over Southern California. New street gets paved, they come in and they carve it up. That's one of the things we pride ourselves in avoiding. It's not always possible. There are some times when Edison or somebody else that is not, they have the ability to come in even after we've done that. But in terms of the things that we do, we take care of those infrastructure items prior to repaving. So that's something that we also are certainly looking at as well, and to make sure that those things don't happen.
Great. Glad to hear it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the council and members of the community. I'm concerned for many reasons. The city of Downey spent $60 million on streets. I think that it's important to consider the type of pavement that you're using on the streets. There's a lot of renewable pavement that can be used that can reduce our carbon footprint. I think that there's even plastic that's being used in other developed countries, and this plastic is reducing the carbon footprint. Sometimes the streets, they're doing something magnificent. They are absorbing the energy from the sun. And I think that if you want to continue to pride yourself as Downey being the city that's doing this and it's doing that, all these wonderful things, I think that there needs to be a consideration to follow other countries' models to do the right thing for the environment. As of, I think, 2019, the studies indicated that it was like end of 2019 that in 14 months, we were no longer going to be in a phase of climate change. Beyond that point, the 13 to 14 months, they said that we were going to be in planet decay. And so the planet is dying, the ocean floors are getting warmer and warmer, and I think that we need to do everything that we can to reduce the carbon emission. And I know $60 million is a lot of money, and I think that it could be used in ways that can better the streets. The previous gentleman indicated that there needs to be some level of accountability for anything below the streets. And I agree very much so, because I believe that we can use pipes that produce electricity through the current that flows through them. And so I think that some of the money should be used in looking into these types of projects instead of just giving money to streets and there's always construction. Why not make these materials long-term, because they do last longer than the cement. And so I just want to point that out. I think it's very important that we consider that, since the planet is getting hotter and hotter. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, January 11th was the hottest night. I consider that the coolest night, because in the years to come, the planet is going to be hotter and hotter, and us using our ACs is not going to do us any justice. We can't have rivalry if we can't exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Good evening.
So good evening, everyone. I just want to keep it brief. I remember when this first was brought up as a brief conversation, it was brought up by Mayor Pro Tem Blanca Pacheco and Mario Trujillo. And one of the things that you guys raised was, could we provide tax dollars for private streets? Now I want to know, what's the update on that? Are we going to use tax dollars for private streets? And if we're not, or if we are, can you at least identify which properties you are considering using taxpayer money for private streets? Whether you abandon it or not, I think it should be transparency for the public to know what individual properties you were thinking of, because we need to be able to check your record and make sure that these are not your donors. So please provide that, Blanca Pacheco and Mario Trujillo, who's obviously not here. Finally, just so you know, update, because this is about our streets, the freeway expansion that's gonna run through our city, through the 3rd and 4th district, that's gonna affect us financially, and it's gonna affect how we construct our streets. Now, Sean Ashton already went to the COG meeting that was just recently had, where he said he's opposing the expansion of the freeway, which is gonna cut 400 parcels of land in the 3rd and 4th district, take out a school, and Dennis the Menace Park. So Sean is doing the right thing. I hope that when I see a representative like Edwin Norris up there, that he remembers we do not want freeway expansions or pollution in our city, and we will begin to make that clear to him and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Rodríguez, apellido Rodríguez. Ya todo el mundo me conoce mi nombre. ¿No?
Good evening. My name is Rodriguez. Last name Rodriguez. The whole world knows me already.
Aquí se hablan de millones como que se hablaran de $1 o $2.
Here, millions are being spoken of as if $1 or $2 is what we're discussing.
Pero eso donde sale del bolsillo de todos los que vivimos en esta ciudad, de la gente que tiene negocio, la gente que tiene casas, la gente que tiene propiedades y de diferentes cosas también de venta.
But this is coming out of the pocket of those who live here in the city, of the businesses, of the homeowners, of those who own property and different things here in the city.
Esta ciudad tiene que tener más control con los trabajos que se están haciendo en la calle de las compañías, agua, gas y cable. Están rompiendo las calles, abren los huecos y no los tapan bien. Ahí viene el problema en las calles.
This city has to have better control over those who are doing work in the city with work involving water, gas, and cable. Those companies, they break up the streets, they make holes, and they don't repair them. That's what's causing the problems.
Entonces tenemos que tener más control en eso. La ciudad tiene que tener más control. ¿Cómo? Como mismo hay personas aquí, inspectores, que van atrás de los floreros a descomisarles las flores, también tienen que ir a chequear esos trabajos de esas compañías que se van y dejan los baches ahí y que cuando llueve uno se puede hasta bañar adentro de ellos.
What we need to have here, us, the city, is to better control what is going on there. We have these inspectors, those who go after the flower vendors. We need to have them instead go after these who are leaving the big potholes, which when it rains, they're big enough for one to bathe in.
Igual que otra cosa, ¿por qué no hacemos una economía interna aquí en esta ciudad con las compañías, con la gente que viven aquí, que tienen negocios, que tienen compañías grandes, que pagan taxis en esta ciudad? ¿Por qué no se le ofrece esos trabajos de estas calles?
Another thing is that we need to do an intense economy here in the city. Those companies who are large, who pay taxes, who live and have businesses here, why do we not do this large business with them, those who are here in the city?
Vemos que estas compañías vienen de otras ciudades, de Orange County, de Los Ángeles. ¿Por qué? Si aquí en esta ciudad hay buenos contratistas y contratistas con buenas compañías y pagan taxis, bastante taxis en esta ciudad, ¿por qué no se le da el trabajo a ellos? Se prioriza a ellos primeros.
We see that these companies come from elsewhere, from Orange County, from LA County. Why? We have good companies, good construction companies here, large companies that they work with, companies that pay taxes, lots of taxes, that we could see that you would do business with them here.
Igual que estos contratos se pueden llevar a subasta. El que mejor lo haga, menos tiempo y con menos precio. Ahí se ahorra dinero a la ciudad. Pero vemos que a ustedes no les importa ahorrar dinero, porque no viene del bolsillo de ustedes, viene de la comunidad que está aquí atrás sentada.
We see that these contracts for work could be put up for an auction or a bid so that those who better do the work and do it at a better price could be selected. But that's not what you're interested in. You're not interested in saving the money because the money does not come from you. It's not what you're interested in. The money comes from the community, those who are seated here behind me.
Por eso, Oliva, ¿por qué no te pones a trabajar? Ese dinero que ganas, más de $300,000, ponga a pensar la cabeza para
Mr.
la ciudad.
Rodriguez, please direct your
Por
comments to
favor.
me.
Que por favor haga sus comentarios al consejo.
No, yo no
Levi's, for you, your work, you who make more than $300,000, you should think more of the city.
Ya, nos vemos, buenas noches.
No, that's all. We'll see you later. Good night.
Thank you. Okay, we need to take a recess. We've lost a quorum up here, so we're going to have to take a recess until our council member comes back. Thank you.
Se ha perdido el quórum. Hay que
Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and reconvene. I will now entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Oh, we have one more. Yes, Mr. Cortez.
Good evening. So I would like to make a comment about these roads and the financing, and I'm very concerned about what other speakers have said about that. Apparently, there's a thought to have private streets. So private streets. Let's talk about what that could entail. So using public funds, taxpayer, local taxpayer, or federal funds, state funds to have private roads. There are some cities in LA County that have private roads up in the peninsula. Some of those cities over there, they're basically gated communities. So that doesn't strike me as what we want, for our city, because we want economic development, right? We want customers, to come into the city. So I'm concerned about having private roads that oftentimes leads to private parking spaces. Like essentially you end up privatizing the whole city. So I'm very concerned about what was brought up by other speakers in terms of this. This is not clearly Downey and no other city should go in the direction of having private roads, because again, like you call them private roads, but you also call, some companies have private shipping lanes, but it turns out that it's actually paid by taxpayers. So in the same way, we don't want any private roads here in Downey and anywhere. The right of way of the public is very important, as we know. Those of us that are tenants, we have to go from place to place. Oftentimes we suffer from residential, the chaos that the landlords push on us, and that is reflected in the roads. Where are we going to go? I know that sometimes we have unhoused individuals in the city, and they need to be going places. Maybe they're going to the healthcare facility. Maybe they're going to the vet hospital. So it doesn't make any sense to have private roads, places where maybe people can't cross. That violates the human right to mobility, which has already been guaranteed by the United Nations. So under no circumstances should this money that you're considering here be used to pay for private roads. We're not going to stand for that. We're not going to tolerate it. Each neighborhood may have its character, but a neighborhood going in the direction of privatization of roads is not the direction for working class families. So I really hope they don't have that in here, because we're not going to tolerate private roads in our city.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cortez. And just as a point of clarification, the public hearing that we just had is for specifically to rehabilitate and repave areas of our city, neighborhoods. We're not talking about private streets. Every year, as I've mentioned before, and it's been part of my mayoral goals this year, part of my mayoral goal is to rehabilitate and repave 80,000 linear feet of road, which means 15 miles worth of road. And again, based on our Downey Street management plan, we do have allocated a certain amount of money annually to be able to do that. What this public hearing and these bonds will do is to accelerate the process and accelerate what would take us many years to do, we would be able to complete in 3 to 4 years. And this is throughout our city. Now, the major thoroughfares have a different type of funding, like Lakewood and Florence and Firestone. What we're talking about is, let me just make it very clear, is our neighborhoods, residential streets. We're not talking about private streets. Mr. Livas, I don't know if you want to clarify further.
No, that's exactly right. This money is going to public streets, not private streets. I think the item that was brought up, there was a discussion because there were some residents that came up about, private streets, and the question was, should we look into processes about how to get those folks to pave their own streets, really. So this is not that discussion here. This is about public streets, so it's not included in this at all. The other thing I wanted to talk about, a couple of things, is that there's some speakers that talk about using the money for other things, safety, things of that nature. The money can only be used for streets. We're taking money from the county street program and putting it into a local street. So it can only be used for streets. It can't be used for any other endeavor in the city. There was also some mention about the city in terms of, its fiscal management. Well, our fiscal management, folks, is pretty darn good. We've had 8 years of balanced budget. We have 35% of our operating income as a reserve. We have the highest bond rating the city has ever had in its history. We have $30 million in our reserve. So in terms of, you don't get those kinds of bond ratings unless you have strong fiscal management. And that's what we have. We've had strong fiscal management over the years. We're going to go before Standard & Poor's. We'll get another rating. They will look at everything in the city in terms of how it's managed, and they go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And every year we've had a solid rating. I think our rating this year was a AA, I believe. And so, again, it's the highest it's ever been in the city's history. So to say that we haven't fiscally managed it, it's just inaccurate. As far as Measure S, was the gentleman who brought up the library. Well, there was a little thing called the pandemic that happened, folks. So we were behind about 6 months because there was a disruption in the supply chain that happened. But the bottom line is the Measure S projects were delivered exactly as promised within a 3-year period. That meant designing all our parks, fire stations, police station, and hiring 10 police officers. And those were based on a survey that was done in the community. Those are the priorities. The priority was, number 1 was public safety. Number 2 was the parks. And so then that's where most of the money went. And we delivered that within a record time of really, 3 years. Really, it's actually less than 3 years because we spent the first 6 months just designing for those projects. So it's inaccurate to say that we have not delivered them on time or on budget. So I just want to make that very, very clear. In terms of making sure that we provide, cost savings and what we're doing, we never wait for something to happen to make sure that we have cost savings. We have the lowest per capita labor cost of all the cities that we compare ourselves when we do a negotiation, the lowest. So we have, and when you compare it to other cities, we have less staff than anybody. So our labor cost is very low. So that means we're doing a hell of a lot more with a lot less people. So we're always looking at ways to try to save money. We have an innovation team that comes together once a year and provides cost savings opportunities for the cities. That innovation team alone saved us $750,000 on a yearly basis. In terms of being aware and doing something about our carbon footprint, we're in the midst right now of providing solar panels to all our facilities, and that will be coming to the council probably in the next 30 days, which will energize all our facilities with solar panels, which will save us roughly about $150,000 a year over the life of the solar panels, somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million. So to say that we're not looking for ways to save money is also inaccurate. So anyway, with that said, I want to just really also focus on the fact that again, concentrating on the fact that these are roads. The other big thing that came out of the survey was roads were also in the top priority in residential streets. The main thoroughfares, as indicated by Mr. Gandhi, those are provided by funding from other sources. And so we haven't had the money that we needed for our residential streets. We provide, roughly about $5 million a year, but it's not enough. It's just simply not enough. What this does is an injection of revenue sources into our local streets, again, and not in private streets. So I just wanted to clarify some of those comments that were made, Madam Mayor. So with that concludes my comments on this issue.
Thank you, City Manager Rivas. I think it's important to, for the record, to make sure our community residents understand these projects and to clarify. There might be some misunderstandings or inaccuracies, so we want to make sure everybody's clear. I will now entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second. So ordered by the mayor. Unless there are any comments from my council colleagues, I will entertain a motion in a second for the city council to introduce an ordinance of the city council of the city of Downey approving the issuance and sale of bonds by the Downey Public Financing Authority to finance Measure M and Measure R, the transportation projects, authorizing the execution and the delivery of pledge agreements, bond purchase agreements, and a continuing disclosure certificate, and the preparation of an official statement, and authorizing and directing certain other matters related thereof.
Madam Mayor, one question, and this might be directly to Gilbert. Which are the roads that we are taking care as priority? I wanted to ask because we have a lot of community in here today, so that way they can know a little bit more.
Sure, I'm gonna hand that off to our Deputy Public Works Director, Ed Norris, and our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Gandhi, can also chime in and sort of help out in terms of this. But we actually have a pavement management plan that is done by consultants. We actually did that not too long ago. And what they do is measure the street index, and every street has a number. So what they do is they look at and they grade each of those streets, and based on that grading, what they do is they assign a number to each street, and then in that management plan, what they'll do is they'll take the highest priority ones first. And so as we do with all our streets in the council districts, for example, we rotate and we take every year we rotate throughout the city, and what we do is we take those streets that are that need the most help or that can be saved by simply slurry sealing them. And what that does is extend the life of that road. And so all the streets in the city, there's too many to enumerate here, but there's, every city has, every street has a pavement management index number that we follow. So it's not arbitrary, right? It's not like for a council member or me to say, hey, we want to pick this street because we know somebody there, or because, no, it's based on scientific way of measuring the streets. And what we do then is provide the ability then to take that out of the realm of conjecture and then be able to then look at a document that is based on some engineering models. So that's how it's done.
Yeah, it's based on the PCI index, right? The pavement condition index, and so they go and they really take a look at where the street fares in terms of that versus other streets around other points of our city. But there is that plan in existence, and as City Manager indicated, it's not arbitrary. There is that cycle, and that's why we really try to ensure that all of our districts are touched on a regular basis, not just focus on a specific district or a specific area, but we really are looking at all of it comprehensively. Now, with this bond, and what we're trying to do is, again, this will expedite to make sure that we are touching all of those in a short amount of time. And I think all of us ran during our campaigns on that promise that we wanted to fix our streets.
One last thing. So what this does is provide essentially the funding. The actual streets will be coming back to the council at various stages in terms of the contracts that will go out. So the specific streets will come forward before you as we start designing them, and they'll come out, and then we'll have a bidding process for those. So the specifics of the streets will come forward. What this does is provide the umbrella funding for those streets moving forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify to everyone that the streets are graded as like from A to F, and we're actually going to hit the Fs pretty much because we need our streets to get better. Thank you.
And we're not going to privatize any streets, correct?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just making crystal clear, and there's no future plans in privatizing streets.
No.
Okay.
No, none of that. So I will entertain a motion. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashton is excused. Councilmember Trujillo is excused. Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Frometa?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Ashton and Councilmember Trujillo absent.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion and a second for the city council to authorize the city manager, the assistant city manager, and our finance director to execute the following documents and any other related documents necessary to issue the Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure M, Series 2021A, the 2021A bonds, and the Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure R, Series 2021B, the 2021 bonds, and together with the 2021A bonds, provided the aggregate principal amount does not exceed $33 million. A, pledge agreement, Measure M, between the city and the authority. B, pledge agreement, Measure R, between the city and the authority. C, preliminary official statement contains the continuing disclosure certificate at Appendix C. And D, bond purchase agreements. I make a motion.
I'll second.
City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashton is absent. Councilmember Trujillo is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Frometa.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Councilmembers Ashton and Trujillo absent.
I will entertain a motion and a second for the Downey Public Financing Authority to adopt the resolution, a resolution of the Downey Public Financing Authority authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $33 million aggregate principal amount of Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure M, Series 2021A, and Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure R, Series 2021B, authorizing the execution and delivery of indentures, bond purchase agreements, pledge agreements, and the preparation of an official statement and authorizing actions and execution of documents related thereof. I'll make a motion.
Second.
City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes. Board Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Board Member Ashton is absent. Board Member Trujillo is absent. Vice Chair Pacheco?
Yes.
And Chair Frometa.
Yes.
The motion is approved with Board Member Ashton and Trujillo absent.
And lastly, I will entertain a motion and a second for the Downey Public Financing Authority to authorize the city manager, the assistant city manager, and our finance director to execute the following documents and any of the other related documents necessary to issue the Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure M, Series 2021A, 2021A bonds, and the Downey Public Financing Authority sales tax revenue bonds, limited tax bonds, Measure R, Series 2021B, the 2021B bonds, and together with the 2021A bonds, the bonds, provided the aggregate principal amount does not exceed $33 million. A, indenture of trust, Series 2021A bonds between the authority and U.S. Bank National Association as trustee. B, indenture of trust, Series 2021B bonds between the authority and U.S. Bank National Association as trustee. C, pledge agreement, Measure M, between the city and the authority. D, pledge agreement, Measure R, between the city and the authority. E, preliminary official statement contains the continuing disclosure certificate at Appendix C. And F, bond purchase agreements. I make the motion.
Second.
City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes. Board Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Board Member Ashton is absent. Board Member Trujillo is absent. Vice Chair Pacheco?
Yes.
And Chair Frometa?
Yes.
The motion is approved with Board Members Ashton and Trujillo absent.
Thank you. Now it's time for non-agenda public comment for the City Council and Downey Public Financing Authority. Now is the time for non-agenda public comment. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I would like to remind members of the audience of the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code. If a speaker engages in conduct that disrupts or interferes with the meeting, after fair warning, I will ask the city manager to have the speaker removed from the chambers until the end of the non-agenda public comment period. I remind speakers that the non-agenda public comment period will be limited to 30 minutes, pursuant to the Downey Municipal Code 2105G. I will allow an additional 10 minutes for written correspondence to be read into the record. City Clerk Duarte, did we receive any written correspondence?
We did, Mayor.
Okay, let's go ahead and read the
Yes,
comments.
Mayor, the first written comment is from Wayne Spindler.
Yay!
Gold Puppet says hello to Mommy Blanca. Fraud Meta is eating too much and being unfair on Zoom. No gay flag. God hates the rainbow flag. Downey will incur God's wrath if you pass it. The next written comment is from a Downey resident. Good afternoon, City Council members. This public comment is to address the corner of Bellflower and Imperial Highway, which not only an eyesore, but an abandoned building for years now. I have lived in the neighborhood near the fire station since 2008, and the corner remains untouched. The corner of Bellflower and Imperial across from Kaiser and adjacent to Jack in the Box is embarrassing to all who come to our beautiful new Kaiser Hospital. I know the city is working hard to develop the southeast side of Downey with Starbucks and Chick-fil-A on Imperial, but what is the plan for this corner? I have called the police in the past because the empty lot attracts homeless individuals under the influence of drugs and alcohol who scream and argue at night, scaring my children as if we lived in Watts, where I was raised. All my neighbors are seriously concerned for our safety at night and now evenings when you attempt to walk to Starbucks. I pay high taxes to live in my beautiful city, and if my home was ugly and abandoned like the corner of Bellflower and Imperial, I would have been fined already. I wonder if the owner of this lot has been fined or cited for its lack of everything. City Council members, with all due respect, please do something about the corner of Bellflower and Imperial. Because I care, Downey resident. The next correspondence is from DDM. Dear Madam and Mayor and Council members, I am reaching out today out of concern. Public safety is always a #1 priority for all of our Downey residents. Our Downey Police Department does a phenomenal job of keeping us safe and arresting those who pose a threat to us by breaking our laws. However, in Los Angeles County, we now have a DA who rejects many of these cases, and this poses a threat to not only the city of Downey, but to the entire county of Los Angeles. Thus far, 20-plus cities have joined together and taken up a vote to show this out-of-control DA that they have no confidence in him, his policies, and that he poses a threat to public safety. Many residents here in Downey applaud these cities for taking a stand, but are confused as to why here in Downey we have not done the same. We as residents and constituents have a right to know where each and every one of you on the City Council stand on this issue. Public safety is a concern to all of us. This is why today I am asking that the City Council will hold a vote of no confidence regarding DA Gascon. I realize that a member of our City Council works for this man. That should not prevent the City Council from bringing this issue up for discussion and a vote. If he feels uncomfortable, he can recuse himself from the discussion and the vote. This issue of public safety, like I stated previously, is something that affects all residents, and we have the right to know how those who are supposed to represent us stand. Thank you for your time. And the last correspondence is from Downey Resident District 2. Now that the homeless shelter for the mentally ill from all of LA County Restorative Care Center is nearing completion, we are seeing the beginnings of the homeless who are emboldened to set up makeshift homes on the sidewalk of Imperial Boulevard and Reeves Avenue, impeding pedestrians. Thank you, Downey City Council, for doing absolutely nothing to keep South Downey from becoming the next Skid Row. I have heard nothing from Sean Ashton, our so-called representative, regarding this issue. Investing millions of dollars to revitalize Apollo Park has been money wasted as the homeless have taken over. Our children and community are no longer safe at that park, as that park has become a dumping ground and an eyesore. Soon it will become like Echo Park, and we homeowners have to deal with the problems the city does not have the nerve to fix. Our property values will surely drop. Since when do people have a right to put a makeshift home on public and private property? Maybe I should go to the council members' homes and park myself in their front yard and urinate and defecate there. How would they feel if I set up my tent on the sidewalk in front of their $1 million home? Why is nothing being done to stop this from happening? This is not allowed in other cities. Why then in South Downey?
Yes, thank you. As I've indicated, because of the number of individuals that are here standing in line for public comment in our 30-minute public comment timeframe, we will allow for a 2-minute public comment for each of you so that everybody can speak. Thank you. Mr. Herman, go ahead.
Very nice. You see, everybody? Mommy is using her treason tactics of suppressing your First Amendment, but it's okay, Mommy. Mr. Spindler was right when he addressed you regarding his point that we should clarify why can't people still call in and participate. Majority of people don't want to be out and catch Delta. Even dumb Biden in his presentation in Philadelphia regarding voter rights. What the fuck does he know about voters' right? I wouldn't vote again, knowing that the voting rig is fucked up. In addition to that, you know, Dean Milliken's still waiting for that Maserati. However, I'm adding into the record a report on 21-26-100, which occurred, I believe, on the 22nd of this past 2 weeks ago, last month, where I have to admit, I don't get threatened very often, but majority of the time people think they can just walk up to somebody and threaten them after public meetings. And I find that very offensive. Very offensive when a man and a woman, a husband and wife, for the record, I won't mention their name, Mr. Frometta and Mrs. Frometta, but when you want to challenge an asshole like me out in the street, please remind yourself, you're public officials. You're supposed to behave in the most appropriate manner and not be a ghetto hood rat and attack people verbally and assault them, especially people with disabilities, especially the elderly, especially people who are nonverbal from another language. Have some respect. Now, if you plan to kill me, on the record, all of you are now my witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Appreciate that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Brown, and I have lived in Downey for 31 years. This is where I raised my family. And I'm going to read to you now an email that I sent on Saturday, July the 10th, to all of the city council members, to Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Since being elected, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon has abandoned crime victims and their families. Gascon has disregarded the rule of law and weakened lawful sentencing requirements for the most violent criminals, including murderers, armed robbers, and rapists. George Gascon's new policies treat career and repeat violent offenders as if they had never committed a crime, ignoring public safety laws approved by the people. Gascon has even reduced sentences on hate crimes, gun crimes, and gang crimes. We are seeing a sharp increase in shootings and other violent crimes all over Los Angeles County and also in our beautiful city of Downey. We no longer feel safe walking our streets. George Gascon has given criminals a pass to commit crimes with little to no consequences. We all want to live and raise our children in a city that is safe. On behalf of crime victims and their families and in the interest of public safety, I am asking the Downey City Council to put on the council meeting agenda of July 13th, obviously it was not done so, a discussion for a vote of no confidence. And I want to know, and your citizens here want to know, how everyone feels regarding supporting the new directives of our district, George Gascon. So I hope to receive a response to my email. Now, I have a few minutes. Having said that, being a Cuban American myself, I want to say thank you for your support to the Cuban American community. They have been 62 years in this communist country. It's horrible. I left Cuba in 1968. My parents brought me out so I could have a better life here. And so thank you so much for your support to the Cuban American community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Bill Adrian, and I'm a fourth-generation Downey resident. The police and fire departments in this city are top-notch, as well as the rest of the city services. I've always felt safe here, and I knew I wanted to raise my family here. As well as being a lifelong resident, I come from a long line of police officers. My dad, uncle, cousins, and brother are all police officers, as am I, having spent the last 22 years protecting the public. My dad worked for LAPD and was well respected. He mentored one of this city's former chiefs, Roy Campos, when he was an LAPD explorer. And he also mentored many of my friends growing up. Some of these friends ended up working for Downey PD. I'm perplexed that the city of Downey is lagging in making its voice heard when it comes to victims' rights. LA District Attorney George Gascon has implemented many directives that have put victims of crimes and the public in general in danger by increasing crime instead of reducing it. He ran on a platform of revamping the criminal justice system in LA County. What he's done instead is refuse to add criminal enhancements for various serious crimes. He plans on limiting prosecution of numerous misdemeanor crimes and refusing to charge juveniles as adults for violent and heinous crimes. This revolving door policy puts criminals right back on the streets where they can commit more crimes with impunity. Gascon seems to be acting more as a defense attorney than as a district attorney. His job is to protect the public by putting criminals in jail. The surrounding cities of Norwalk, La Mirada, Pico Rivera, Santa Fe Springs, and Whittier have all voted no confidence in Gascon and his policies. Yet Downey has made no mention of it at all. Why haven't we denounced Gascon's policies? I think we all know why. Why should something that concerns all of the residents of the city be stymied because Councilman Mario Trujillo, who sits on the board, is closely connected to Gascon and his administration? It is an embarrassment that our city has not acknowledged something that is so potentially dangerous to the community. Doesn't Downey want its citizens to be safe? It's time for Downey to step up and make its voice heard and join the surrounding communities and say enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can we start the time after I hand you something, Mr. Ortiz? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Go.
You can leave with the city clerk and she'll get it to you after the meeting.
Oh, it's not there. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and I apologize for the confusion. In addition to the no confidence vote, we would like to put any council member on notice that retaliatory actions against the mayor or any other council members will be met with recall movements. I have recently returned to my family home in District 3. I have loved the patriotism displayed. I was greatly saddened by what I heard Catherine and her supporters say in the June 22nd meeting. They stated that the U.S. flag brought pain, represented slavery and oppression. I ask, how can a person who has been the recipient of good neighbors, the faith community, and government subsidies criticize the symbol of the United States? She has supplemented her entitlements by not paying rent, leading to evictions and a bankruptcy that has been expunged her debts, not to mention the multiple lawsuits that she files. The attack on the flag, the Constitution, the founders of this country is beyond comprehension to me and should be to all Americans. Mayor Frometa, Councilwoman Alvarez knew if her welfare fraud conviction, which she pled guilty to, would have been known to the voters, they would not have elected her. She lacks the ethics and moral compass to serve us all. She deceived our residents and our city. The document that I have handed is our intent to recall Catherine Alvarez as council member.
Hold on.
The city clerk is not authorized to accept recall papers on behalf of any council member. The elections code is very clear that proponents of recalls have to personally serve the council member directly, not through the city clerk. Okay, so then that's personal service.
Okay.
Sure. She served.
I said that is personal service.
Okay. Sure.
What does that mean?
I think we're in public comment.
Can I speak now?
We're on public comment.
Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Mayor Formetta and City Council members. We are recalling Councilmember Alvarez because of her deception to the residents of Downey and her past criminal record. She did not disclose to the voters of her welfare fraud conviction, shoplifting conviction, and being banned from even visiting certain Downey businesses. There were 2 warrants for her arrest for failure to show up to court. Our residents deserve better. She knew if she was honest with the residents, they would not have voted for her. She claimed she's for the people, yet she lied to the very same people and to this city. We as Downey residents deserve better, and as an ally of the LGBT community plus for over 25 years and a proud mother of a member, our community would rather have no representation sitting in the city council than to have a bad representation for our city. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I need calmness in the chambers. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members of the City Council, Mr. Levis and staff. A couple of quick comments. First of all, I need to acknowledge your translator for his speed at which he writes down the comments and the speed at which he translates. Wonderful job.
Yes, he does. Thank you.
Secondly, I want to acknowledge the employees of the city and for all their work they've done, along with the City Council and Mr. Levis, in terms of handling city business during the last 15 to 18 months. I'm sure there were a lot of issues and a lot of problems, but you handled it, and I thank you very much for that. The next item is that I would suggest that the City Council modify the qualifications of running for City Council by adding the disclosure that any future candidate that's been convicted of crimes must disclose that fact prior to the filing of their candidacy. This obviously would give more voter transparency, which is what everyone is basically looking for. And it would have minimized some of the rhetoric and some of the issues that occurred in the last election cycle. And I got 25 seconds left, and I just want to add this, a different topic. I am really concerned that the local city government is losing control over land usage. The federal government, the state government are mandating what's happening. Big government is taking more and more control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Nice to see you.
Mayor Frometa, what Catherine Alvarez did to our voters is shameful and deceptive. She also robbed legitimate people who need welfare of their money. She said she's for the people, yet she stole people's money, especially those who need it the most. And then she deceived the voters about this information. She stole from a Downey business, and she is banned permanently. There's no excuse for stealing. This is shameful, and she should have disclosed this to the residents of District 3. She didn't because she knew they would not elect her. Having warrants for her arrest shows lack of responsibility also. She's a complete fraud, and we deserve better. Also, Councilwoman Alvarez is not fit or qualified to oversee a city budget of over $240 million. Public records show that she had two evictions owing Downey landlords over $7,000. And then in 2017, she filed for bankruptcy to avoid paying what the court said she owed. She is financially irresponsible to run her own personal life. She is certainly not skilled or able to watch over our city budget. Her prior history shows she is not capable of holding this position. There's too much at risk for us residents to have a council person who has cheated the system to be involved with any financial matters of our city. What pillar of character counts does that represent? Not a one. The residents want a person who is ethical, honest, and represents our values in this community. We raise our own children to be accountable to these. We must be able to trust each person in that chair. We have now seen Councilwoman Alvarez's character, and this is not what us residents want nor voted for.
Thank you. This is going to be a fair warning to those of you that are booing. If you do that again, I will ask the city manager to have the police escort you out.
What about the ones that are clapping?
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Also, by the way, I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I have no love lost for the communists of Cuba. Lee Squire, civil rights advocate for children and adults with disabilities, and a Vietnam-era veteran. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Subject, a proclamation for Disability Pride Month. People went to jail for these civil rights. Presentation in honor of two civil rights movements for the disabled. The Rehab Act of 1973 was the first federal civil rights for the disabled. However, it only applied to local governments that received federal financial assistance. The second federal civil rights for the disabled was the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and applied with an emphasis on the private sector. For public agencies of Rehab Act of 1973, the ADA is a supplement and support to the Rehab Act. It does not superior it. Because the Rehab Act of 1973 was the origins of what we people call special education in our schools, I would like for the City Council to consider a proclamation and have it be issued to the President of the Downey Unified School District. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
Sí, buenas noches.
Consejo Municipal de Downey. Este día me he hecho presente porque yo y mi familia vivimos en la ciudad de Downey. Y quiero pedirles de favor que tengan una ordenanza comprensiva sobre el control de renta.
Good evening. I am here before the Downey City Council this evening because my family and I live in this city. We would like for the city of Downey to have a comprehensive ordinance on rent control.
Porque muchas familias, en esta ciudad es muy bonita, pero nos quejamos de eso, porque los dueños de los apartamentos suben la renta de un día para otro.
I'm here because many families in this city, which is very beautiful, we complain because many apartment owners increased rent from one day to the next.
Y hoy me he hecho presente ante ustedes como un consejo municipal que es la ley ante eso para que nos puedan ayudar sobre ese control.
And I have come here to appear before you as city council who is to take matters under your control as regards this.
Gracias y pasen buenas noches.
Thank you, and may you have a good evening.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Agradezco nuevamente la oportunidad de estar aquí en esta plataforma.
Good evening. I thank you again for the opportunity to be here at this platform.
Y felicito a las personas que nunca han tenido la necesidad de rentar en un departamento como estamos aquí pidiendo necesidades sobre el control de renta.
And I congratulate those people who have never had the need to rent an apartment, such as we are saying here for the need to have rent control.
Yo, como muchas personas, tenemos la necesidad de rentar y no tener una propiedad.
Like many other people, I myself have the need to rent, as we do not have a property.
Estamos aquí para hacerles saber y solicitar el apoyo de todos ustedes que están al frente.
We are here to let you know and to request the support of all of those who are here present.
Que espero que nos consideren sobre este tema.
And I hope that we may be taken into consideration for this subject.
Y necesitamos personas al frente que, como nosotros, sepan lo que es vivir en un departamento.
And we need people at the forefront who, like us, know what it is like to live in an apartment.
Tenemos algunas sugerencias, quejas en nuestros departamentos porque nos cambiaron de manejador.
We have some suggestions, complaints as to our apartments because they have changed managers on us.
Y vengo a presentarles una carta que va dirigida directamente a los propietarios donde rentamos.
And I have a letter that's been prepared that goes directly to the owners of the places where we rent.
Quiero dejarles una copia a cada uno de ustedes al frente para que pudiéramos contar con el apoyo de ustedes en este problema.
I wish to leave a copy for each of you who are here up front that you may support us as regards this problem.
En uno de todos estos problemas es precisamente el control de renta, como vuelvo y repito, no tenemos la dicha de tener una casa como muchos de ustedes.
One of the problems, as I have said already, is concerning this rent control, that we do not enjoy the grace of having a home of our own as owners.
Aquí está a grandes rasgos lo que estamos solicitando como inquilinos de estos departamentos. Les dejo una copia y les ruego consideren nuestras peticiones y personas al frente, reitero, personas al frente que nos consideren como arrendadores.
In broad strokes, I lay out here what it is that we as renters would like to see, and I leave a copy for you that you may consider our petitions, and that you may, and I repeat now, be those people at the forefront who may take into consideration what we as renters are asking for.
Les agradezco su atención y me gustaría volver a participar en estas plataformas con apoyo en español. Muchas gracias.
I thank you for your attention, and I would like to, again, have the opportunity to take part in these platforms with Spanish-speaking translation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies of the City Council, City Manager Livas. In the year 2014, a piece in the Downey Patriot entitled STEM's Roots in DUSD responded to two editorial letters asking the city to place more of an investment in STEM education. A prominent quote within one of the letters reads, "Without a dramatic overhaul of math and science instruction, American students will continue to lag behind in the rest of the world. Engaged learning strategies have proven successful in boosting student achievements quickly and dramatically." A year later, the city responded as well with the city's first ever City of STEM event, a week-long community-focused celebration of science, technology, engineering, and math. During this week, the Space Center presented STEM programming to the community, engaging diverse audiences at various locations throughout the city. That same year, Griffiths Middle School and Warren High School hosted Downey Unified's first VEX robotics competition titled Nothing But Net. According to the Downey Patriot, the scrimmage was organized through a partnership between Griffiths and Warren in hopes to be one of the many robotics tournaments held within Downey Unified throughout that year. In 2016, while reflecting on the CMSC City of STEM event, then Mayor Alex Saab said, quote, "It really is focused on children and motivating them to think big. It's so important that we have a vehicle where kids can explore, where they can learn, where they can ask questions and have fun at the same time. That's really the mission of the Columbia Memorial Space Center." This trend continued for 3 more years, and Downey was on track to create a STEM and tech hub for youths all over Southern California to point to when the itch to explore the great beyond and the means to get there took hold. However, in 2020, the coronavirus slowed down that momentum, forcing the event to go virtual. I say all this to stress that with vaccines in arms and life somewhat returning to normal, I hope this momentum finds new life in 2021 and beyond. Innovation and discovery waits for no one.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Seré breve. Estoy aquí en nombre de mi familia y también en apoyo de todos mis vecinos para que haya un control de renta en esta ciudad. Al igual que ustedes, mi dinero vale igual que el de ustedes. Entonces, creo que ustedes que tienen la facultad de escucharnos y de ejercer el poder para poder ayudarnos, quisiera que en esta ciudad, vengo de una familia trabajadora, pago taxes igual que ustedes, tener una vivienda digna, una renta justa y un trato humano. Eso es todo. Gracias.
Gracias.
Renta justa, una vivienda digna y un trato más humano. Gracias.
Good evening. I will be brief. I am here in support of my family, and in support of that's on behalf of my family and in support of my neighbors, in order to have rent control here. Just like you do, my money here is worth the same as yours. And I would ask you to empower us, to exercise the power that you have, so that we may have in this city, where we pay taxes just like you do, to have the rent control, that we may have then what is a fair rent, to have housing with dignity, and to have humane treatment. Thank you.
Yes, please proceed.
Hello, my name is Wendy Galvan. I've been here in the past with you before. I wanted to first start off by saying that I love my city and I love being here. I've lived here all my life, and I would like to continue to live here. The main reason I am here today is to ask you to support my family and so many other families here in our city. We have been struggling during this pandemic, as many of you have, I suppose. But for us specifically, we are renters and our building is falling apart. The management does not care to support us. And we would like to see that even if the management doesn't support us, at least our city and our city council will. We deserve, as Downey citizens, to be protected, even as tenants. Like I said, my building's rent has increased during this time, and they know that we cannot do anything, or because either we don't understand or because we don't have support from the people in charge, which is you guys. And this city is supposed to be for the working class and Latino, and usually that is not the population I ever see represented here or just in general. And that really saddens me because I like to be involved and I've tried to be involved before, and it's become very difficult these days, not just because of the pandemic, but because I don't feel supported as a member of the community now that I've turned 18. So I would like to see this happen, as I said. And like I said, I would like to continue living here, but only if you guys support us with rent control, or else that is never going to be able to happen in my lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy, what apartment complex is this?
The Rio Apartments on Imperial.
Can I have Mr. Aldo Schindler? Can you talk to Wendy? You've mentioned your building is falling apart, and there may be some code enforcement violations that we can take a look at. So if you can give some additional information, please. Thank you. Mr. Martinez, hello, welcome.
All right. Well, I want to start off by saying that the gentleman, Alex Vargas here, had the privilege of giving invocation last city council meeting. Unfortunately, he used that as a tactic to motivate the city council to vote in a particular way. Particularly, he wanted them to vote against the LGBTQ community. Now, Mr. Vargas can be ignorant and homophobic all he wants, but when he's doing it on invocation time, that's taxpayer time. The government should not be allowing sexist, homophobic, discriminatory behavior to be spout out just because you're cool with him and he's your buddy. You need to do the right thing, and you did preach about equality and all of that for everyone. So then make sure that this doesn't happen. I mean, I'm sure you all recognize that we do have a separation of church and state, so invocation in itself should not even be happening to begin with. But as you continue with your buffoonery and people continue to call for Ms. Alvarez's recall, which I gotta say, it doesn't burden me or it doesn't sadden me at all to hear that. But if people want her to be up forward with her past behaviors, then Ms. Mayor, shouldn't you come forward and let the people know that you're being investigated for approaching someone, a citizen of Downey, for assault? She's being investigated. That just happened right now. I mean, where's the call for that? This is what I'm saying, is that you guys are all drinking contaminated water that's exceeded notification levels. Notice how I had to say notification levels to be legally safe. But you're drinking it, it's going into your body, and it's accumulating. And we have a city council that continues to attack our social rights.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. And for the record, I do want to say that the same rights and privileges that everybody has to free speech are afforded to everyone. And I just want to clarify again for the record that my no vote to flying the pride flag is in no way representative of my support for all the people in my community, including the LGBTQ community. In fact, it's quite the opposite. As we continue to erect flags representing specific groups, we take away from the unity that this nation's flag, our nation's flag, represents. I support, thank you. That is your right. This is exactly what is happening to our Cuban brothers and sisters. The oppression under a communist regime, because we are silencing dissent, and we are silencing different points of views. The opportunity to come here before our council for public comment is precisely just that, the opportunity to voice your concerns and your opinions to us. I was elected to represent all people, everyone, all walks of life, all religions, all faiths, all associations. That is why I'm here, and it is a privilege and an honor. I believe, as you, in fairness, in equality, in acceptance, and in inclusion. I believe that. I believe that in any given time, if we face danger or a disaster, I will risk my life to save somebody else, regardless of their sexual orientation or creed. That is the humanity in us. But now we create our own divisions by singling out certain groups. And I believe that we all must be represented. So let's just make the record straight, Mr. Martinez, and to all of those that would vilify or crucify the mayor for taking a no vote. I believe the only flags that should fly in government buildings are those I mentioned, and I stand by that record. You may be seated, Mr. Martinez. Thank you. And with that, I will go ahead and you have the floor. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Last council meeting, Councilmember Alvarez and Trujillo made some very sad remarks regarding the faith community. So I'm here tonight to share a little bit about how wonderful our faith community is here in the city of Downey. Last year, when the pandemic hit, one of the biggest needs that came to me was for diapers and baby formula. I immediately went to work and received 150,000 cases of diapers and 800 cases of baby formula. Our clergy council was able to distribute that to moms and dads throughout our community. Second request was for groceries. Again, immediately went to work. Our clergy council came together and partnered with the Mormon Church, who provides food for their members. He said, let's partner together and to get our community fed. So my wife and I and a team of amazing people delivered groceries to families not only in Downey, but throughout LA County. Let's talk about the holidays. On Thanksgiving, my church, New Season LA Downey, we have a Thanksgiving family feast where we open up our church to anyone who has nowhere to go on Thanksgiving Day to receive a hot Thanksgiving meal. Many churches and organizations and community members come alongside us and serve that day. For Christmas, we have Operation Happy Child, where we partner with DCFS and our Downey Unified School District in providing toys to children in our community who are not getting any gifts due to parents or guardians having a very difficult time. Last Christmas, we were able to partner with the Downey Police Officers Association and our Downey Fire Department. Chief Herlock personally came with the fire department with a truckload of toys and delivered to our church for these children in our community. Downey PD and Downey Fire Department and our amazing mayor, Claudia Fermetta, went and personally delivered these gifts to our families in our community. We provided toys for 200 children. Lastly, our church is a visitation center for foster children in our community to have a visit with their parents. It's a great opportunity for the church to really help these struggling families. I think it's... Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
Council. Bruce Crow. I've lived in Downey for 37 years. I've heard tonight a lot of people, groups, complaining and being ungrateful to this country and to the city as well. They continue to do this to advocate themselves as having rights to something. But I want to say, in our Declaration of Independence, that is a template that we can all follow in how to treat each other, talk to each other, and how to run our own individual lives. It says right in there that all men are created equal. Well, there's systemic equality right there. There's no systemic racism at all in this country. It's systemic equality. And no matter what the progressives want to say, they don't acknowledge individuals as being sovereign human beings, being endowed with rights from our Creator. Those rights being life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And that's private property. And that includes private roads if you want to buy a private road. You are allowed to do that in this country. The government doesn't decide everything for you, and the government isn't going to do everything for you. They shouldn't. They should get out of the way and let the individual flourish to his or her own abilities. So if you're complaining about your lot, get up, bear your burden, be a responsible human being. We're not here to cater to your group, that you just be an exemplar of your group of victims. Bear your burden. If you don't like your rent being too high, make more money. Move out. Buy your own property. You can do that. It's America. It's what it's all about. Those folks in Cuba have figured that out, I think. And they are now...
Thank you. Okay, that is Mr. Martinez, that was your second warning. One more and you will be escorted out.
Can I go?
Good evening.
Good evening. Catherine Rojas Alvarez, you're fired. We need someone to replace her from her seat. We need someone with a job or a career, someone with good morals and values, someone with a clean criminal record. In June 27, 2013, she was evicted in Downey at 11823 Lakewood Boulevard, case number 13F04342. In addition, she had filed for bankruptcy, so that way she didn't have to pay the money judgment that the judge had ordered against her. She also committed welfare fraud, and then she went ahead and shoplifted at Michael's, and then she has a ban. Guess what? Michael's don't have food. They don't have anything. Even if they had food, she shouldn't have stolen from that store. She is currently suing the Eden Rock Apartments where she's living at. Her next court date is on February 2022. Everything that she has, it's a money grab. She is a liar and she's a thief. Currently, she's being sued for defamation as a city council. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Greenspan, to the earlier speaker that talked about the no confidence vote in George Gascon, I've got 3 words of advice. Buy a gun. After all, we believe in gun control in North Florida. It's called 2 hands. In fact, as long as we're talking about the Cuban community today, Florida is probably the biggest host state for Cuban refugees. And we've had, I think, at least 4, probably maybe 5 different waves of immigration from Cuba that goes back to the late 1800s, if we want to play the one up. Now, what's this world coming to? I found myself agreeing with Mayor Claudia Frometa, because when they had all these, the lady talked about the violations at the apartment, that's a city matter. Yeah, ding that landlord who's doing a bad job. Make that person pay. I'm glad now I know it's done here through community development. Let that person pay. But if you have rent control, and you've really hit a bad thing, because I once applied for an apartment in Santa Monica back in the 80s, a rent control city. There was one apartment. I saw the ad in the paper, and I lived in Westwood, across from UCLA on Gailey. And when I tried to go there, there was a room full of people, and they would ask questions such as, if you ever been on unemployment. Folks, you have rent control in this city. This will become a country club city. The people living here will be able to live here, but no new people will be able to move into apartments. Those apartments will be, well, if I have to subsidize someone's rent, let me bring in my nephew from Massachusetts, or let me bring in my aunt from New York, or somebody else, because it'll be friends and family. It'll be who you know. So let's have a country club city, because that's what will happen with rent control.
Thank you. Good evening.
For the record, there's a lot of Spanish speakers here, and you guys should have at least a Spanish speaker and an English speaker so they could translate what I'm saying in English. Just want to state a few things. It's very surprising to me, Frometa, that you support men beaters. I'm not mentioning names, but he's here. So another thing too, also, I'm going to translate in Spanish. Me sorprende que hay una población aquí de español y ustedes no tengan unas personas que hablan en inglés para traducir lo que ustedes dicen en inglés. A mí por récord. Hay gente aquí que está perdiendo su casa. There's a lot of people here that are losing their homes. Not just homes, but apartments too. No nomás casas, pero apartamentos. Están aquí, también aquí sufriendo. There's a lot of people that are suffering. Again, we need an English and Spanish speaker so they could translate English. Also, the English that needs to be translated in Spanish to the people who don't understand what you guys are talking about. There's a few things that I want to point out. It's kind of crazy how there's a lot of people here that wants to throw baggage around. A lot of people have a lot of stuff in their closet too. You guys are not perfect. Pretty lot of stuff but the one guy that was stealing $65,000 in Downey as well. La persona también que estaba robando $65,000 aquí en Downey. Y no lo reportan y no hablan. And they don't talk about it. But I do want to point out too, corruption is here also in Downey. They don't want to talk about it. Corrupción está aquí también en Downey. Y aquí tengo los papeles de las complaints. I have the papers that has been filed on May 17. You see this, Aldo, right? City code enforcement. Here, it hasn't been, where is it at? Lost. But I'm filing a lawsuit against you, and then you, and you.
Thank you.
Jessica Sandoval, you have been served.
I need order, please.
Madam Mayor, we're not being equal in here. We're not being
Need order.
equal.
Go ahead.
She was disrespecting the meeting, the public comments, and you didn't do anything this time.
She was done with the public comment.
The last time
Ms.
it
Alvarez.
happened again. I'm just letting you know that the last time it happened the same way. You only call out one group, but the other group you didn't.
We're going to go ahead and take a recess, 3-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and continue our meeting. Just want to make sure everybody understands we need to be respectful on both sides. I don't know exactly what was happening on this side, and both individuals, whoever those individuals were, we need to conduct ourselves in a respectful manner. And I will have to take a pause. There is a lot of moving parts in this meeting, and there's a lot of interaction that is taking place. And I appreciate that. There is good, robust engagement. But at the same time, any time there is that disruption from either side, whoever side it is, I'm going to have to take a pause so that everybody can come down a bit and we can really, as a council, move forward with conducting the people's business. So I hope that we can move forward and continue to take the public comment that we are here for and listen to the residents' concerns and do it in a respectful manner on both sides. We all care about the city, and we all need to care for one another. So I am here, and your council has been elected to serve each and every one of you. So having said all that, Mr. Rodriguez, you have the floor.
Good evening.
Ante todo, Prometa, estás contenta con lo de Katy, ¿no? Okay.
Above all, you from Meta are happy as to Kathy, right? With all that?
Katy, eso no es nada.
Kathy, that's nothing.
La guerra empieza ahora.
The war begins today.
Pero le vamos a tener que hacer también a Trujillo, le vamos a tener que hacer también un complaint también.
But we are also going to need to do a complaint on Trujillo as well.
Porque Trujillo defiende a los delincuentes.
Because Trujillo defends the criminals.
Y hay pruebas, y grandes pruebas, con Gastón.
And there's evidence, great evidence, with Gastón.
Otra cosa, en el 2019, Pacheco, que ustedes no quisieron probar el control de renta en esta ciudad.
Another thing is that in 2019, Pacheco, when you guys did not want to approve rent control here in the city.
Porque como ustedes tienen muchas amistades que los apoyan en la campaña, los realtos y todo, le dan dinero para su campaña, para poner sus carteles grandes.
Because since all of you have contacts with realtors and they let you during your campaigns put up big signs.
A esta gente no le importa la ciudad de Downey, a esta gente le importa su dinero.
These people do not care about the city of Downey. These people care about their money.
Desde que aquí ustedes no pasaron el control de renta, esta ciudad ha habido el índice de bandolerismo, de robo, de droga ha aumentado y ustedes lo tienen tapado.
Since the city here did not pass the rent control, the index of crime, theft, has increased, and you have all of that covered up.
Esta compañía, como le subieron hasta el 40-50% a las personas trabajadoras que habían viviendo 20, 30 años en esta ciudad.
These companies, since they increased by 40 and 50% the rent for all these people who had for 20 years and more been working hard in the city.
Estas personas le están rentando al Estado, están metiendo en esta ciudad, si ustedes no se han dado cuenta, porque ustedes viven en sus mansiones, pero nosotros vivimos ahí, drogadictos.
These people are renting to the state, something which you pay no attention to because you live in your mansions. We rent. They are bringing in and renting to drug addicts.
Gente que no trabaja.
People who do not work.
Aquí en Downey, desde la pandemia, se han estado robando catalíticos, tapas de trocas de atrás, carros, y la policía nunca ha venido porque dice, oh, la pandemia.
Here in Downey, thefts have been occurring since the pandemic. Thefts of catalytic, of the truck bed lids, the covers, and cars. And the police do nothing because they say, oh, it's because of the pandemic.
Cuando se llama a la policía le dice, Estamos en pandemia, no viene, pero no lo reporta que hay crimen.
When the police receive a call, they say, we're in a pandemic. They do not come, but they do not report it, that there is a crime.
Una vez dejaron un carro en la West, en el medio de la calle, a las 3 de la mañana, botado.
One time a car was left in the middle of Western at 3 in the morning. It was just left strewn there.
Yo llamé y tú sabes qué me dijeron. ¿Cómo se llama el que está dentro del carro? Imagínate tú. ¿Cómo se llama?
I called, and can you imagine what they asked me? What's the name of the guy who's inside the car? Can you imagine what the name is?
Mr. Cortez, you cannot be filming right up where you are. Our municipal code states you can be filming at the back of the room or from your seat. And thank you. Apologize for that, Mr. Rodriguez. Your time was stopped. Go ahead.
Entonces, lo que yo necesito es saber, hay que trabajar con la comunidad. Todos tenemos que trabajar con la comunidad.
So then what I need to know is we need to work with the community. Everyone needs to work with the community.
Por eso estamos pidiendo control de renta, para que se queden gente que trabajen, que produzcan en esta ciudad. No queremos vivir de nadie.
That is why we are asking for rent control, so that people who produce and who work in the city get to stay. It's not on behalf of anyone else. Good night.
Thank you. Mr. Rodríguez, señor Rodríguez, quisiera que hablara con el señor Aldo. Usted me dice que hay problemas. You're telling me there's problems with the apartment complex that you live, code enforcement violations. Quisiera que usted hablara con el señor Aldo para investigar las violaciones de code enforcement en el apartamento, en el complejo de apartamentos donde usted vive. Quisiéramos ayudarle de esa manera. Gracias. We would like for you to speak with our Director of Community Development. If you say there's a lot of code enforcement violations in the apartment complex where you live, we would like to investigate and make sure that there's no safety issues for the tenants. Thank you.
Gracias. Quiero hablar de un poco de la historia reciente de esta ciudad.
Thank you. I would like to talk a little bit about the recent history in the city.
La señora Catherine Álvarez fue la primera inquilina elegida aquí y reemplazó a un propietario.
Miss Catherine Alvarez was the first tenant here who was elected and who replaced an owner.
Esa es la razón por la cual a ti y a usted, y no sé exactamente ellos, pero esa es la razón por la cual no les agrada, y estas personas que estaban aquí que se fueron y que la quieren sacar, eso también piensan, porque quieren tener todo el poder.
And that's the reason why you, singular, and you, plural, and them, I don't know, but you, all of you are not taking action against them because you all are protecting the powerful.
Y eso no está claro, gracias. Y eso no está correcto. Por eso, si quieren una elección, pues vamos a tener una elección. Vamos a poner el control de renta en el ballot.
And so that is not correct. If you want an election, then we are going to have an election. We are going to put rent control on the ballot.
Y vamos a hacer que esta ciudad sea una ciudad en la cual se respetan los derechos de las personas de clase baja, trabajadora, hispanohablante.
And this city will then become a city where low-income people are respected, the working people and Spanish speakers.
Hay muchos miles de personas que hablan nada más español, y usted, cuando dio las instrucciones de esta junta, nunca se hablaron en español. Muchas personas no se dieron cuenta. Usted está violando los derechos.
Many people speak only Spanish in the city, and you, when you gave out the instructions for this meeting, you did not give them in Spanish, and many people were unaware of the rules for this.
¡Viva el control de renta!
Long live rent control.
Thank you.
Yo por falta del idioma no entendí. Quiero hacer un
disculpe, ya usted habló, ya no se le permite hablar una segunda vez.
Sí,
Gracias.
Pero refiero por el idioma, quiero hacer un comentario breve solamente.
por el idioma no entendido.
Yo lo entiendo, pero si le doy a usted una segunda oportunidad, quiere decir que a todos los demás se la tengo que dar también. If I give you a second opportunity, that means I have to give it to everybody else. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sí, yo sé.
Thank you.
Solamente para una próxima pudiéramos tener traducción para poder comentar ampliamente nuestras necesidades.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Please.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
thank you. That was to briefly request, if you would so allow, please, that due to the lack of knowing the language, the request is, if at next meeting, could we please have someone speak into Spanish so that we may make comments? Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed, please. Good evening.
Hello, I would like to just say something in response to the guy who spoke earlier about the police not doing a very good job here in the city. I think to the contrary, the police here does an excellent job. We have called them out to our street on numerous occasions and they have responded quickly and very efficiently. Y para que lo que no entienden en inglés, le quisiera decir que la policía aquí en Downey hace un muy buen trabajo. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. It appears this ends our public comment for tonight. I will need a first and a second to close public comment.
Make a motion to close public comment.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashton is absent. Councilmember Trujillo is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Frometa?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now is the time for non-agenda public comment. Once again, before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I would like to remind members of the audience of the city's meeting rules. I'm sorry.
Time for consent calendar.
Yes, my bad. Members, we're now moving on to consent, and I would like to remind members of the public who wish to address us regarding consent items only to please come forward, and I will allow 20 minutes for public comment. City Clerk, did we receive any written correspondence regarding consent items?
Mayor, we did not, but in regards to item number 2, the Downey Public Financing Authority minutes for November 28, 2017, this set of minutes is being pulled and brought back at a future meeting of the Downey Public Financing Authority because we don't have a quorum to approve or to adopt those minutes. And then also in regards to item number 5, this item is being pulled and will be brought forward at the next regular City Council meeting of July 27, 2021.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other council members that would like to remove or abstain from any other item?
Yes, I need to abstain from the minutes. I was not council at the time.
Council member, we've pulled those set of minutes to another meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, are there any other items you would like to abstain from?
No.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to address the council regarding consent calendar items may now come forward and form a line.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I see we have a lot of appointments tonight to various commissions, and I want to go over that because, after all, to the victor goes the spoils, and I definitely want to comment applaudingly to Claudia Frometa for taking her former opponent from probably what was a real rambunctious type of campaign and pointing her to a commission. I do, though, want you folks to learn how to vet these appointees. Well, what are you talking about, Greenspan? Well, in LA, we have lots of appointees. And the late John Walsh once talked about one of the commissioners, and the person had kiddie porn. So I really hope you don't put people with kiddie porn in their apartments or their houses.
What item number are you speaking to?
I'm talking about the appointees in general, because it's a very important issue. The conduct of I'm kind of balling up all the appointees into one, rolling them into one ball. But after all, we should be vetting them. And it's not toward anyone in particular, but just to be certain we don't have a surprise. Look who's going to prison. Surprise. They've got kiddie porn. That's not going to be a good reflection. So I do want to emphasize that point. Could be other things too. And I see now we don't have a quorum, in case you've noticed, but I hope that won't stop the meeting. Nothing to do with her convictions, bankruptcies, or anything else. Those are things for courts to decide.
Please stay on topic.
Okay, I'm just saying that's for things to courts to decide. I'm not getting down on anyone. Now, the National Night Out, yes, we have them all over the country, and it's a very good thing to have. After all, once we're done with the National Night Out, it'll be the criminals back to plying their trade, but for one night, it'll be something, they'll be going on a one-day vacation. And by the way, I have something that I will submit afterward for the record, because this is for the police, about a police officer, a part-time pig in Los Angeles, Mitchell Englander, who's now in prison. So he won't be able to be with you on National Night Out. But then, do we really want him? But I did want to emphasize it. And baby killers, have the rest of the time back. Let me give this one for the record.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Herman.
Well, we all know what vague is, and we know what the lack of adequate standards or guidelines are, right? Especially when it comes to enforcement. What the fuck am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about item 10 in specific. Appointment to the Planning Commission District 4. Am I on topic?
You are this time, Herman, yes.
So
thankfully.
You see, people of Downey, what happens in these planning commissions is usually the developer wins. And the pay-to-play schemes fall in the hands of the developer and the planning commission. Now, I don't support any planning commission that's involved in embezzlement, corruption, bribery, and so on. On the other hand, I know in particular of a particular person who used to be on planning commission. I won't mention his name, Mr. Frometta, and I always emphasize there's a conflict of interest. Why? I must know something that the FBI already knows, right? 310-477-6565 for the record. Don't be surprised that the FBI is monitoring every meeting, every phone call, every cell call, and all those little unspecified meetings that you hold without the public's transparency, such as in violation of our First and Fifth and 14th Amendment, and best of all, Article Section 2 of the California Constitution, fuck you, Gavin Newsom, recall. And
Are you on topic? Are you staying on topic?
Now I'm on item 14.
Okay.
I was rudely interrupted again. trying to defend enforcement of unconstitutional rules of decorum. Don't fuck with the speaker in the arena. Otherwise, profanity, vulgarity slips out. 42 U.S.C. 1983, fuck you. Now, let me continue. According to the closure for the 8th annual National Night Out, I support it because homeless people who have no TVs, people who have no computers, people who couldn't get to the library, now you have a place of refuge. Go to these events. They're free at our expense, the taxpayers. Not you, Mr. Livas. And get your hand off your forehead and pay attention, because these are the guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Have a good night. Hello again. What happened to the mic? Speak into the mic, Mr. Martinez. There we go. Now he's on. You're on now.
Can we restart the time, please?
Go ahead and start the time. Just because you smiled, I'll start the time.
Oh, thank you. City Attorney, can you please pay attention? Because quorum was broken for the remainder of 2 public comments. And what the hell are you doing? Anyways, the topic I wanted to talk about is 16. Is that within?
No, Mr. Martinez, those are under administrative reports. So let's keep it to the consent calendar, which goes through item number 14.
All right.
Excluding number 5, because we're taking that to the next meeting out of, we don't have a quorum.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay.
It's okay to take public comment. Ms. Alvarez is not feeling well. She's stepping in and out of the chambers. If we're in the middle of public comment, we let the public just comment. The action needs a quorum. So I won't ever let the council take action when there's the third member missing, but we won't interrupt public comment. If we're in the middle of public comment, she needs to step out. So I am paying attention.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers regarding consent items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close consent.
Make a motion to close public comment.
Consent, on consent items, yes.
On consent items,
And
yes.
I will second that motion. City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashton is absent. Councilmember Trujillo is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Frometa.
Yes. Let's see, we are now.
Mayor, can we take a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
Yes, I was about to do that, City Clerk. Thank you. Thank you. I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar with item number 5 being carried over for the next council meeting, since we.
I'll second.
Okay. And let's go ahead and take roll.
Councilmember, Board Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Board Member Ashton is absent. Councilmember Board Member Trujillo is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Pacheco?
Yes.
And Mayor Chair Frometa.
Yes.
The motion is approved with item number 5 being pulled, and item number 2, the meeting minutes of the Downey Public Financing Authority of November 28, 2017 being pulled.
Thank you. I will now adjourn the Downey Public Financing Authority meeting. Now, we have, there are 2 administrative reports this evening. Number 15, regulation of the retail sale of tobacco and tobacco products. And I think we are moving this item for the next meeting, as Councilmember Ashton is not here tonight. And item number 16, which is the discussion regarding expanding methods for the public to address the city council during city council meetings. Councilmember Alvarez, do you want to proceed with this item, or do you want to table it for the next meeting?
Table for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. So then we have items number 15 and 16 carry over to the next meeting. I do want to address a couple of issues that were brought up by several community residents during public comment, as well as via email, regarding Downey's position with DA Gascon. And out of respect and courtesy to our council colleague and friend Mario Trujillo, we are not going to be discussing that until after his retirement in August. And I think that is a fair thing to do. And also to address the issue of public safety in our city. We are working on a public safety town hall that is going to be brought forth to our community in the next couple of months. Again, this is regarding the Gascon situation. This is in no way representative of how each and every one of us thinks or feels about any one particular issue. But again, for our community, it is also out of respect and courtesy to the council member that was elected by the City of Downey, District 5, in his position with the office. We will be discussing that item at a later time. Thank you for that. I don't have any further comments. Mr. Livas, do you?
Madam Mayor, I do not have any additional comments tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe, and we will see you next time. I will now adjourn the meeting. Victims, out of respect to the victims of the tragedy in Surfside, Florida, can we please have a moment of silence for them? Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.